Chapter 5695. Young Master Lu lowered his eyes and said indifferently, "It's what I should do. Do you have something to do this time? If you don't have anything to do, feel free to take a seat. I still have something to do, so I'll go in first." The smile on Fan Jian's face suddenly froze. "Did you really just want to come out and show your face? You don't even want to say a few words? Do you have to be like this? We are relatives, young Master Lu. My enemy is still watching. Can't you at least give me some face? Young Master Lu, I really have something to do this time. Please stay." Fan Jian had no choice but to bite the bullet and ask young Master Lu to stay. If young Master Lu really went in like this, then Fan Jian would be embarrassed to death. However, what Fan Jian didn't expect was that before he finished speaking, Lin Yi, who was next to him, said after being stunned for a moment, "Han Xiaoqiao." Young Master Lu's eyes, which had been lowered, suddenly opened, and a trace of excitement appeared on his calm face. "Brother-in-law? You're back. Is my sister back?" Han Xiaoqiao's eyes focused on Lin Yi's face, and he immediately walked a few steps forward and asked excitedly. In the past, Han Xiaoqiao and now young Master Lu both had the image of an autistic nerd in front of others, but at this moment that feeling was completely gone. Obviously, Han Jingjing occupied a very important position in his brother's heart. Otherwise, he wouldn't have asked about Han Jingjing as soon as he opened his mouth. Lin Yi smiled and shook his head. "No, your sister is still in that place. But you also know how smart and talented your sister is. I believe it won't be long before she comes back to see you." Han Xiaoqiao, who was now called Lu Xiaoqiao after hearing Lin Yi's words, a trace of disappointment flashed in his eyes, but he immediately smiled and nodded. "Brother-in-law, you're right. My sister is so smart, she will definitely find a way to come back. Besides, brother-in-law, if you can come back, my sister will definitely come back next time, right?" Lin Yi didn't explain his current state. Anyway, Lu Xiaoqiao cared about Han Jingjing, so it was fine as long as he gave him this hope. After nodding affirmatively, Lu Xiaoqiao smiled quite happily, but Fan Jian, who was next to him, was completely dumbfounded. What was going on? Is Lin Yi really Lin Yi? Fan Jian felt like crying. Who the hell would be stupid enough to use someone else's name to threaten them, and not believe that they were real? This blunder was really big. Seeing Lu Xiaoqiao and Lin Yi talking and laughing, and then thinking about how indifferent Lu Xiaoqiao was to him just now, Fan Jian thought that he should just hurry up and die. Lu Xiaoqiao asked about Han Jingjing's current situation, and Lin Yi told him some of the important things. Knowing that Han Jingjing was living safely in Hualanju, continuing to work on her favorite inventions, Lu Xiaoqiao had a relieved smile on his face. It was as if Han Jingjing wasn't his sister, but an elder. Fan Jian stood to the side, not daring to get too close. He didn't want Lu Xiaoqiao to think he was eavesdropping on their conversation. All he could do was sneak a peek at the two of them talking. When it was almost over, he ran over and apologized to Lin Yi. Lu Xiaoqiao asked curiously, "Brother-in-law, what's going on? Didn't you come with him? What is he doing?" Lin Yi smiled faintly and said, "It's not a big deal. It's just that this guy called Fan Jian is a bit of *TC. He's using your Lu family's name to show off, and he even used my name to threaten me. It's quite funny. What's your relationship with him?" Fan Jian's face paled in an instant. He trembled as he stood to the side, not daring to move an inch. He had been complaining about the Lu family for ignoring him, but now he could only hope that Lu Xiaoqiao would forget about him. Lu Xiaoqiao glared at Fan Jian. Lin Yi might have said it lightly, but Lu Xiaoqiao wasn't an idiot. He had a general idea of what was going on. "Brother-in-law, you don't have to be angry with this kind of person. This guy is my sister's cousin, and we are not directly related by blood. Because his family has declined, he came to our Lu family for help. We have been helping him because of my sister's reputation. I didn't expect him to do such a thing outside." Lu Xiaoqiao's words were filled with disdain towards Fan Jian. This kind of guy was not worthy of Lu Xiaoqiao's attention. Fan Jian's face paled even more. Just as Lu Xiaoqiao had said, he was not related by blood to House Lu. He was only Han Jingjing's cousin. When he said that Lu Qianli was his uncle, he was just trying to make himself look good. In reality, only Lu Qianli was his uncle. The rest of House Lu was only because of Han Jingjing. If Fan Jian had worked hard and managed to get the Lu family's help, he might have been able to get the Lu family's approval. Unfortunately, this guy was completely useless. Other than borrowing the Lu family's name to intimidate others, he also used the Lu family's financial support to indulge in debauchery. On the surface, he came to the Lu family to thank them, but in reality he was here to ask for money. It would be strange if Lu Xiaoqiao gave him a good look. House Lu was a big family, but they didn't want to keep a parasite like this. If it wasn't for Han Jingjing, they would have cut off all contact with Fan Jian a long time ago. Lu Xiaoqiao and Lin Yi's reunion was supposed to be a happy thing, but when he saw Fan Jian he felt disgusted. He waved his hand as if he was swatting a fly. Fan Jian, leave first. Don't come to our house if you don't have anything to do. Also, for my sister's sake, I'll take responsibility for this matter with my brother-in-law. If I find out that you dare to use House Lu's name to swindle people, I won't let you go. Don't say that I didn't give you face. Fan Jian's forehead was dripping with sweat, but he didn't dare to refute. He could only leave with his 2 bodyguards. After Fan Jian left, Lu Xiaoqiao said apologetically, "Brother-in-law, I made the decision on my own. Please don't take it to heart." Lin Yi smiled and said, "It's okay. You did a good job. Just like you said, for your sister's sake, I won't argue with people like Fan Jian. But seeing that you have become more mature and decisive, I'm very happy. Your sister will be happy too." Lu Xiaoqiao smiled shyly, then patted his forehead and said, "Look at me. I was so happy that I forgot to inform their brother-in-law that he's back." Chapter 5696. Then it was Lu Qianyi and Lu Qianli's turn to rush back after receiving Lu Xiaoqiao's notice. For House Lu, nothing was more important than Lin Yi. Since Lin Yi was back, they had to put aside all the important things and come see Lin Yi first. It wasn't even half an hour before the 3 most important people of the Lius came back one after the other, chatting with Lin Yi about what had happened after their separation. Lin Yi couldn't help but tell them about Han Jingjing's situation. Knowing that Han Jingjing was doing well on Sky Tier Island, House Lu was also very happy. Lu Qianli had also pulled himself together, and although he still felt a little guilty when facing Lin Yi, he was completely different from before. This made Lin Yi feel a lot more at ease. Lin Yi stayed the night under the enthusiastic invitation of House Lu. The next morning, House Lu sent Lin Yi to the airport together and greeted Sun Jingyi, Kang Xiaobo, and the others. They were all familiar with each other, and Lu Qianyi even complained that they didn't come to visit House Lu when they were in Yanjing. But he knew that Lin Yi wanted to come to House Lu alone to talk about Han Jingjing, which was why he didn't bring them. Naturally, he wouldn't be angry. It was time to board the plane, and after another round of goodbyes, everyone agreed to meet up again. Lin Yi brought the group to Europe to participate in the medicine exhibition, preparing to investigate the mysterious sacred alliance that had risen to power. The plane landed at Milva's Kelly International Airport. This was the place where the medicine exhibition would be held. Cheng Yi's concert would be held in Bernidi, and it wouldn't take too long to get there by car. "Bro Lin, I'll be singing in Burnett this time. I'll be going to Rami in 3 days and then Madoko in 3 days, followed by Baraini and Lenton. Are you going to watch the first show or are you going to watch every show?" Cheng Yi's eyes curved into 2 crescent moons, but she set up a trap when she spoke. If Lin Yi said he would come for the first show, then of course he would come for the rest. As for the choice to come for every show, that was even more straightforward. Unfortunately, Lin Yi didn't fall for it. He only smiled. "That's hard to say, but I will definitely come to your concert." Su Shirhan would always be a guest for Cheng Yi, so he didn't have to worry about not being able to see her. Right now, the most important thing was to take care of the medicine exhibition in Milva and the Sacred Alliance. Cheng Yi laughed and hugged Lin Yi. As long as Lin Yi could come to her concert, it would be good enough. Of course, she wouldn't really expect Lin Yi to come for every show. She turned around and said goodbye to Jingyi and the others one by one before getting into the SUV that came to pick her up and leaving the airport first. Kang Xiaobo looked at the MPV driving away and sighed. Now that Su Shirhan and Cheng Yi have become famous internationally, they are 2 international superstars. If we have time, we should all go and support them. I just don't know if there will be any tickets. Lai Changyi laughed. With Boss there, why would there be any need for tickets? Didn't you see that Cheng Yi invited Boss to the concert and didn't even give him a ticket? Our boss can just show his face. Lin Yi pretended to be angry. "Fatty Lai, you've got some guts now. You dare to make fun of me?" I don't dare, boss." Lai Changyi raised his hands and surrendered. Everyone laughed. Lin Yi felt relaxed when he was with his old friends. Ever since he went to Sky Island, it seemed like everything was smooth sailing. But in reality it was difficult and dangerous. He had walked on the edge of life and death countless times. Only Lin Yi knew how much pressure he had to bear. While they were talking and laughing, the people arranged by Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company arrived. Everyone got in the car and went to the hotel to settle down. Kang Xiaobo and Lai Changyi went to the exhibition venue to register and arrange the display. Of course, Kang Xiaobo and Lai Changyi wouldn't trouble Lin Yi with these trivial matters. Lin Yi saw that he had nothing else to do, so he brought Sun Jingyi and Languza out for a stroll. Milva was a beautiful city, and Milva Lake had beautiful scenery. It was rare for them to come here, so they treated it as a vacation. Sun Jingyi felt that it was a blessing to be able to stroll around with Lin Yi in a foreign country. If Languza wasn't around and it was just her and Lin Yi, it would be even more perfect. He'd been planning on looking for clues about the Sacred Alliance at first, but he'd let it go after a while. They were just some clowns after all, and it wouldn't be too late to deal with them when they showed themselves. He'd just have to spend some time with Jingyi for now. The three of them wandered around Milva as they pleased. Languza did not stop eating at all. Although Switzerland's delicacies were not to his liking as Chinese delicacies, it was still quite refreshing for him to try it for the first time. After all, as a qualified foodie, he would not reject any delicacies that he had not tried before. When Lin Yi and the other two returned to the hotel, the sky was already dark. Kang Xiaobo and Lai Changyi were waiting in Lin Yi's room. Their faces didn't look too good. What happened? Did the people from the Sacred Alliance come looking for trouble? Lin Yi smiled faintly. Although he was wholeheartedly accompanying Sun Jingyi and didn't use his divine sense to monitor the whole of Milva, he could guess it from their faces. Boss, you guessed right. The people from the Sacred Alliance came looking for trouble. Kang Xiaobo nodded and said, but among the people from the Sacred Alliance, there was actually a Heaven rank expert and 2 Earth rank experts. They didn't say anything and just wanted to smash our booth. If it wasn't for me and Lai Changyi, no one would be able to stop them. Lin Yi was startled and said, Heaven rank expert? Are they Chinese? No, they are pure-blooded Europeans, but they are indeed cultivators. And they are masters of inner force. Lai Changyi continued, and at the same time, his expression was a little solemn. We don't need to worry about these people from the Sacred Alliance. After all, their strength isn't enough to threaten me and Xiaobo. But the attitude of the organizer of the exhibition is somewhat infuriating. Chapter 5697. Lin Yi smiled coldly. Shouldn't they be responsible for the safety of the trade fair be the responsibility of the organizers? How dare they threaten you? If they can't do it, I'll just let them end the exhibition early. Boss, I'm good at this. Are you going to give me the mission? Languza jumped out and asked excitedly. Ever since he came to the secular world, Languza only had 3 hobbies: trendy clothes, good food, and fighting. Hearing Lin Yi's tone, it seemed like there was going to be a fight. Languza, who had just eaten his fill, was naturally full of energy. You're getting excited again. Go to the side, there will be a time for you to fight. Lin Yi laughed and scolded. He turned around and said, it's not important that the Sacred Alliance has practitioners. What's important is that these Europeans have our cultivation system. From what I know, it wasn't like this in the past. It seems like there is indeed something strange going on in the Sacred Alliance. We need to uncover their secrets. Lin Yi wasn't lying. When he went on missions with the names Ling Yi and Ying, he'd come into contact with a lot of Westerners. It wasn't that there weren't any masters in the Westerners, but the training system they used was based on physical training. Although Lin Yi was only a golden class at that time, he wouldn't be wrong about the basics. At the same time, in the secret base of the Sacred Alliance in Milva that Lin Yi and the others were talking about, a mysterious man wearing a bamboo hat was listening to the report of his subordinates. They were the European practitioners that were chased away by Kang Xiaobo and Lai Changyi. You said that the Miracle Dr. Guan medical group still refused to cooperate and even defeated all of you? The mysterious man with glasses said in a low voice. He obviously couldn't believe it. With the lineup he sent out, 1 Heaven class, 2 Earth class, and some Mystic class practitioners, how could they not be able to deal with a mere Miracle Dr. Guan medical group? The European leader of the Heaven class lowered his head and said, yes, although there were only 2 of them, they were shockingly strong. They are definitely beyond the Heaven class. They should be masters in the foundation building stage. Foundational stage? How could there be a foundation establishment stage master here? And those 2 are the co-directors of Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company. Are you kidding me? The bespectacled man said very unhappily. Obviously, he did not believe that Kang Xiaobo and the others would be masters of the foundation building stage. Forget it, let's not talk about this for now. But the special edition Golden Soar Medicines formula from Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group is something we must get. Only by combining this formula with our medicine can we proceed to the next step of research. So, you have to think of a way to lure Kang Xiaobo and Lai Changyi away and attack the other people from Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group. That way we will have a higher chance of success. The man in glasses said calmly. It was obvious that he was determined to get the special edition Golden Soar Medicines formula. At this time, someone suddenly said, what did you say those 2 people were called? Kang Xiaobo and Lai Changyi? I know these 2 people. They are Lin Yi's underlings. Back then they didn't follow Lin Yi to the ancient small Jianghu. Instead they returned to the common world. They are just 2 foundation establishment stage masters. I will deal with them. The person who spoke was actually Xue Jianfeng, who was electrocuted by Lin Yi. This guy was indeed an undying cockroach. After being electrocuted by Lin Yi, the flying saucer that he used to escape was shot down by the sea beast and fell into the endless sea. Even so, he was still alive. His vitality was indeed shocking. There was another person besides Xue Jianfeng. It was Qin Dongqing who carried Xue Jianfeng and escaped together. After these 2 guys fell into the endless sea, they were saved by the reinforcements from the center. Then they followed the people from the center to leave the ancient small Jianghu and return to the common world to stir up trouble. With these 2 people present, the origin of the Holy Alliance was clear. It was a puppet force that the Holy Alliance had supported in the European region of the secular world. They wanted to use it as a springboard to control the whole of Europe for the Holy Alliance. After Xue Jianfeng finished speaking, he was very excited in his heart. He couldn't beat Lin Yi, but these 2 underlings of Lin Yi were merely ants at the foundation establishment stage. He could crush them with a wave of his hand. Using them to vent his anger and make Lin Yi's heart ache at the same time was the most suitable. The man with glasses glanced at Xue Jianfeng and nodded slightly. All right. Although it is a bit overkill to let you deal with them, as long as we can get what we want, it is worth it. In the ancient small Jianghu, the center was already able to create strong people at the profound ascension stage. However, after Lin Yi messed around, a lot of information was destroyed. Moreover, without the environment and resources of the ancient small Jianghu, everything in the common world was equivalent to starting all over again. The special edition of the Golden Sword medicine from the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group was related to one of the important research. Therefore, the man with glasses didn't hesitate to use Xue Jianfeng, this super trump card. Xue Jianfeng shook his head at Qin Dongqing and said, "Old Qin, let's go out for a walk. Take it as a way to relax. There aren't many opportunities to bully that bastard Lin Yi's underlings. It just so happens that there are 2 of them. Let's take 1 each. Is that good?" Qin Dongqing laughed and said, "That's good too. It's been too long since I've exercised my muscles. It's time to go out for a walk." The man with glasses didn't object to this. So far, only Xue Jianfeng and Lai Changyi could go out. After all, the opponent was a master at the foundation establishment stage. Big Brother Feng, who was standing at the door, was a little anxious. He wanted to inform Kang Xiaobo and Lai Changyi, but unfortunately he couldn't get away. He could only continue to stand there expressionlessly, praying that these 2 underlings of Lin Yi could avoid Xue Jianfeng and Lai Changyi first. Xue Jianfeng and Qin Dongqing didn't know what Big Brother Feng was thinking. When they passed by, they smiled and nodded at Big Brother Feng. Big Brother Feng could only force a smile and wish them success. The 2 didn't go to the exhibition venue. Instead, they went directly to the hotel where Kang Xiaobo and Lai Changyi were staying. At the front desk, they asked for the room number of Kang Xiaobo and Lai Changyi and went straight upstairs to find them. After reaching the floor, Xue Jianfeng scanned with his divine sense and found that Kang Xiaobo and Lai Changyi happened to be drinking together. He immediately smiled and said to Qin Dongqing, "Good luck. Both of them are in the same room. It saves us the trouble of catching them one by one." Qin Dongqing frowned slightly and said, "Did we miss something? Why do I feel a little weird?" Chapter 5698. In fact, Lin Yi and the others were also on the same floor. After talking about what happened at the exhibition, Kang Xiaobo and Lai Changyi left Lin Yi's presidential suite and came to their side to discuss the follow-up countermeasures. The reason why Xue Jianfeng and Lai Changyi couldn't see Lin Yi, Languza, and Sun Jingyi was that Lin Yi's spiritual sense was too strong. When he felt other spiritual sense sweeping over, he naturally shielded it. Xue Jianfeng's strength was indeed at the early stage of profound ascension, but he was forcibly promoted because of the potions in the center. The mainstream of the ancient small world was the cultivation of spiritual sense. Unfortunately, Xue Jianfeng's strength improved too fast, and his spiritual sense couldn't keep up with the progress. Speaking of which, the strength of his spiritual sense had just reached the early stage of yuanying, which was already a very fast improvement. However, in front of Lin Yi it was completely not enough. If he wanted to find the 3 people in Lin Yi's room, he still needed to walk a long way. After listening to Xue Jianfeng's words, Qin Dongqing felt that it was reasonable. Maybe he really thought too much, so he smiled and shook his head. When he came to the door of Kang Xiaobo's room, he reached out and pressed on the lock. He exhaled and directly shattered the built-in steel lock. To an early-stage mysterious ascension expert, Wanting to collapse an entire building was as easy as flipping his hand. A mere steel lock was indeed not much of an obstacle. After pushing the door open, Shui Jianfeng laughed and said, Kang Xiaobo Lai Changyi, the time of your death has come. Hurry up and kneel down to die. This young master can be especially merciful and leave both of you an intact corpse. Kang Xiaobo and Lai Changyi held a wineglass in their hands and looked at Shui Jianfeng, who was walking slowly, and Qin Dongqing, who was closing the door. After the two looked at each other, they slowly calmed down. Kang Xiaobo then said, Shui Jianfeng? Why are you here? Shui Jianfeng was originally very satisfied with the expressions on Kang Xiaobo and Lai Changyi's faces. What he loved the most was to see others panicking in front of him. Unfortunately, Kang Xiaobo and Lai Changyi only panicked for a moment before regaining their composure. This made Shui Jianfeng rather dissatisfied. Hence he sneered and said, What? Very surprised to see me? Now that your boss isn't here, aren't you feeling very flustered? Don't worry, you don't have to pretend to be calm. In any case, when I kill you later, you will still cry and scream. Kang Xiaobo laughed and said, Shui Jianfeng, cut the crap. Do you think that you can defeat the two of us just because you brought one person? Isn't he a little too arrogant? Kang Xiaobo was so confident because Lin Yi was right next door. He and Lai Changyi already had a blind worship mentality towards Lin Yi. As long as Lin Yi was around, there was never a problem that couldn't be solved. Shui Jianfeng immediately laughed out loud. He pointed at Kang Xiaobo and Lai Changyi and said, Just based on you two trash, do you need this young master to bring people to deal with you? What a joke. This young master can crush you 2 ants with 1 finger. Old Qin can crush you 2 ants again with another finger. I've already said, hurry up and kneel down to accept your death, and I'll leave your corpses intact. Thinking of what he said before coming out, Shui Jianfeng turned his head and said to Qin Dongqing indifferently, Old Qin, just now we said 1 for each. Come, I'll let you pick one first. These two fools still think that they are so awesome. Let's let them have a good taste of what true awesomeness is. Qin Dongqing had some inexplicable uneasiness in his heart. He stood by the door and shook his head, saying, Forget it. I'll leave these 2 small shrimps to you. Anyway, I don't know them. It's more interesting for you to deal with them. You gave up the opportunity yourself. Don't say that I didn't take care of you later. This kind of fun is hard to come by. Forget it if you don't want it. Shui Jianfeng didn't mind and said with a sneer. From Shui Jianfeng's point of view, he was completely in control of Kang Xiaobo and Lai Changyi. What was left was to find some fun on the two of them. The reason why he didn't take them down immediately was to let them rise up and resist. He was very clear that beating people from hope to despair was the true joy. However, Kang Xiaobo and Lai Changyi didn't have the intention to escape, nor did they show any signs of resistance. They were still sitting on the sofa as usual. They even raised their cups to each other, indicating that they should have a cup together. Shui Jianfeng was furious. Is this how people who are threatened should behave? If I don't show my power, you're really treating a tiger as a cat. Shui Jianfeng, who wanted to show his power, waved his hand and the sofa that the two of them were sitting on turned into ice shards. Fortunately, Kang Xiaobo and Lai Changyi reacted fast enough and stood up. Otherwise, they would have sat on the ice shards on the floor. Ah, are you afraid? If I want to kill you, it's just a matter of waving my hand. Why don't you beg for mercy? Shui Jianfeng laughed proudly, but Kang Xiaobo and Lai Changyi were still calm. Even their eyes looked like they were watching a clown's performance. This made Shui Jianfeng very uncomfortable. Qin Dongqing couldn't stand it anymore. They came mainly for the formula of the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group. After getting the formula, it wasn't a big deal to get rid of the 2 underlings of Lin Yi. Now that Shui Jianfeng was showing off, they didn't even put him in their eyes. This made Qin Dongqing feel more and more uneasy. You two, if you want to live, hurry up and hand over the formula of the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group. Otherwise, I'll let you know what it means to beg for death. Qin Dongqing was afraid that Shui Jianfeng would continue to say something unimportant, so he quickly asked. Shui Jianfeng also felt bored and said embarrassedly, That's right, hurry up and hand over the formula. Otherwise you'll regret it. At that time, you won't even have the chance to beg me to kill you. Lai Changyi chuckled. Shui Jianfeng, aren't you afraid that our boss will find you for revenge? What's there to be afraid of? I'm a super master of the profound ascension stage. Why would I be afraid of him? Stop joking around. If he dares to appear before this young master, see if this young master will. Shui Jianfeng said loudly. Actually, he was putting on a brave front to hide his guilty conscience. However, before he could finish speaking, he was interrupted by a loud explosion. The door that Qin Dongqing had just closed was kicked open by someone. Even Qin Dongqing, who was standing by the door, was knocked away by the door. Shui Jianfeng turned around angrily and said, "Who is it? How dare you kick the door open? Do you want to die?" Chapter 5699. Shui Jianfeng, you're not dead yet? Did you come here to court death? I'm in front of you now. What are you going to do? Lin Yi walked in with a sneer. Languza followed behind him excitedly. He knew these two guys too. Languza's genes were still in this guy's body. Today was the perfect day to settle the score. Shui Jianfeng trembled and cried out in disbelief, "Lin Yi, you really shouldn't talk behind someone's back. You mentioned Lin Yi and Lin Yi arrived." Shui Jianfeng wanted to slap himself a few times. What a jinx. Lin Yi smiled faintly. Shui Jianfeng, you're quite something, aren't you? Everywhere you go you're busy showing off. Some people used to call me the pretentious boss, but I think that title suits you better. Plus, every time you show off you run right to me. I really have to admire you. Qin Dongqing had long been scared out of his wits. No wonder he felt uneasy after entering the hotel. It was because of Lin Yi, this fiend here. Qin Dongqing was considered a defector from the Green Cloud sect in the North Island. He didn't have much confidence in facing Lin Yi. Lin Yi's performance at the distant ancient meeting made him even more fearful. At this moment he couldn't say a word. He was only thinking about how to escape from Lin Yi's hands. Shui Jianfeng rubbed his eyes hard and opened his eyes wide to take a closer look. Yes, it was Lin Yi. Shui Jianfeng's nightmare. No matter how he improved his strength or how fast he broke through, Lin Yi was like a huge mountain, always pressing on his head. No matter what, he couldn't turn the situation around. At this moment, Shui Jianfeng thought of a secular saying, "Don't act pretentious. If you act pretentious, you'll be struck by lightning." Lin Yi, this bastard, liked to strike people with lightning. Although he wasn't wearing the alloy armor this time, he would probably be better off wearing the armor when he was struck by lightning. Shui Jianfeng was also a bachelor. He knew that he wasn't Lin Yi's opponent, so he directly knelt down in front of Lin Yi. He even had a flattering smile on his face as he said, "Ha, Senior Lin Yi. It's really you? I was just about to say that if you appeared in front of me, I would immediately kneel down and pay my respects to you. Actually, we heard that you were staying here today, so we specially came with old Qin to pay our respects to you. I didn't have time to prepare any gifts in such a hurry. How rude of me." As he spoke, Shui Jianfeng secretly gestured to the dazed Qin Dongqing. How could this idiot be so stupid? Can't you see that this young master has already knelt down? Don't you know that a wise man doesn't fight when the odds are against him? Saving your life is the most important thing. Qin Dongqing saw Shui Jianfeng's gesture, but his first reaction was to despise Shui Jianfeng. This spineless thing, kneeling down as soon as he saw Lin Yi. Just now, he talked nonsense for half a day and now he said such nonsense. Even a ghost wouldn't believe it, right? Besides, no matter what, they were two masters of the mysterious ascending stage. Didn't they even have the courage to fight with their lives? He also didn't know who Languza was in human form. Otherwise he would never have the courage to fight with his life. Not to mention Lin Yi, facing Languza alone, the two of them didn't even have the qualifications to fight with their lives. If they made a move, it would be completely suicidal. Lin Yi glanced at Qin Dongqing with a smile that didn't seem like a smile. He also had a deep impression of this Jadian sect's former vice-sect master. The last time he came to cause trouble in the immemorial grand meeting, Qin Dongqing ran away with Shui Jianfeng in the end. Now that he had delivered himself to his doorstep, shouldn't he just take care of him? Qin Dongqing was glanced at by Lin Yi's eyes. He actually felt a chill all over his body. After shivering for a while, he immediately knelt down. As for the thought of despising Shui Jianfeng just now, it was completely thrown to the back of his mind. Other people were other people, but when it came to himself, the standard was naturally completely different. Martial Uncle Lin, this time Disciple specially came to ask for forgiveness from Martial Uncle Lin. Since leaving Jadian sect, Disciple has always wanted to return to Jadian sect. Unfortunately, Disciple knows that Disciple's sins are grave, and really dare not, and also have no face to go back to see you. I heard that you also came to this hotel to stay. Disciple finally mustered up the courage to come and ask for forgiveness from Martial Uncle Lin. I ask Martial Uncle Lin to give face to the ancestors of Jadian sect and accept Disciple back into the sect. Disciple is willing to accept the sect's punishment. In a moment of desperation, Qin Dongqing actually said a long paragraph in one breath, and in the end he almost moved himself. As for the matter of him, Qin Dongqing threatening Kang Xiaobo and Lai Chang'e to hand over the formula, he seemed to have completely forgotten about it. In his heart, he was also constantly hypnotizing himself. Did such a thing happen before? No, right? Did it? No, right. Well, actually these were not important. The important thing was to let Lin Yi believe what he said now. Thinking about it carefully, if this could be successful, it would not be a bad thing. Today, Jadian sect was already the head of the 4 big sects, and the entire ancient pugilistic world completely followed Jadian sect's lead. And Chen Dongqing's strength was at the early stage of mysterious ascension, so he could properly be a grand elder, and also have a noble status. More importantly, Chen Dongqing was very clear that there was no central power in the ancient pugilistic world. Judging from Bing Wuqing's situation, Lin Yi could also remove the poison that was implanted in his body. As long as Chen Dongqing could be accepted by Lin Yi and return to the ancient pugilistic world, he would still be the small group of people at the top. Lin Yi was stunned. Obviously he did not expect Chen Dongqing to say this. But from Chen Dongqing's words, it seemed that this guy really had some sincerity? Of course he would not believe Chen Dongqing immediately. After all, Chen Dongqing was just threatening people just now, and now he was just trying to escape. There was no need to rush to a conclusion on this matter. Shui Jianfeng squinted at Chen Dongqing and despised him in his heart. This Chen Dongqing usually scolded Lin Yi in front of him, but now he was calling him Grand Uncle Master so intimately, and even wanted to hug Lin Yi's thigh. How shameless. Speaking of which, why wasn't this bastard Lin Yi the Snow Sword sect's Grand Uncle Master? Otherwise Shui Jianfeng would be able to hug his thigh too. Lin Yi did not know what these two were thinking. He was most concerned about the Sacred Alliance's background, so he waved his hand and said, "Stop talking nonsense, tell me, are you here on behalf of the Sacred Alliance? What is the relationship between this organization and the center? What is the purpose of targeting the formula of Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group?" Chapter 5700. In front of Shui Jianfeng, Chen Dongqing would never do something like betraying the center. Only by holding Shui Jianfeng's weakness would Chen Dongqing reveal everything he knew to Lin Yi without hesitation. "What are you looking at? Boss is asking you a question. Do you believe that I will kill you immediately if you don't tell me the truth?" Languza glared and threatened loudly. He really wanted to kill these two fellows. As long as they were from the center, Languza didn't have a good impression of them. Chen Dongqing hurriedly said, "Martial uncle, this disciple was only recruited by the center to be a hired thug. I don't know anything important. Shui Jianfeng should know more about this than this disciple. After all, he is the leader of all the cultivators who joined later." Lin Yi turned to look at Shui Jianfeng and said with a faint smile, "It seems that you are really awesome. You already have an important position in the center." Shui Jianfeng was filled with hatred. He knew that Chen Dongqing didn't dare to betray the center, but pushed him out to be roasted. However, with Lin Yi staring at him, he didn't dare to make any strange movements. "Senior Lin, you must be joking. In fact, this junior is just an errand boy in the center. What position do I have?" Shui Jianfeng's mind was racing. He smiled and said, "We don't know anything about the Sacred Alliance. Today we are here to pay a visit to Senior Lin. We don't mean to represent anyone. It seems that you really want to die." Lin Yi nodded seriously and raised his palm at Shui Jianfeng. Shui Jianfeng was shocked. He knew that his words couldn't win Lin Yi's trust. However, even he wouldn't believe what he said, let alone Lin Yi. Lin Yi probably heard everything that happened in the room from outside. Therefore there was no need to ask Kang Xiaobo and the rest. "Senior Lin, I suddenly remembered that I've heard of the Holy Alliance before. I seem to have heard of it in the center by chance. It said that after they retreated from the small Jianghu in the ancient times, they re-established a force in the secular world. Their main area of activity is in Europe, and they may develop to the Americas in the future. If that's the case, it seems like the two of us are really representing the Sacred Alliance this time. We're not even sure ourselves." Shui Jianfeng pretended to have a look of sudden realization. He seemed to have a natural talent for acting. If that's the case, you should have heard some rumors about why the center is targeting Miracle Dr. Guan's company, right? For example, what do you need Miracle Dr. Guan's formula for?" Lin Yi retracted his hand and asked casually. Shui Jianfeng wiped off the cold sweat on his forehead. He thought to himself that the information he gave out wasn't classified, so it shouldn't be a problem. Furthermore, compared to his own life, even if it was classified, it didn't seem like he couldn't reveal it. "Haha, Senior Lin, you think too highly of me. I really haven't heard about this before." Shui Jianfeng wasn't willing to reveal more information to Lin Yi easily, so he said while sneaking glances at Lin Yi's reaction. Seeing that Lin Yi was about to raise his hand again, he quickly continued, "But I do have some personal speculations. Senior Lin, why don't you listen to them and use them as a reference? Languza glared at him again. So much bullsh asterisk T. If you don't make it quick, I'll beat you up. Shui Jianfeng thought to himself. You're just a small fry who uses the tiger's might. What are you so proud of? You want to beat me up? If it wasn't for Lin Yi, I would have taken care of you long ago. This was also the reason why Languza didn't reveal his aura. If Shui Jianfeng knew Languza's true strength, he wouldn't have any thoughts of getting lucky. It's like this. Although I haven't heard why the center asked the Sacred Alliance to find trouble with Miracle Dr. Guan's medical group, and I don't know why they want the formula from Miracle Dr. Guan's medical group. However, the center has always been researching different types of medicine. Senior Lin, you should know about this. So, I'm guessing that maybe the center is interested in something from Miracle Dr. Guan's medical group. This might be related to the center's research on medicine. Senior Lin, you must be careful. What Shui Jianfeng said was actually the truth. He just changed his words so that he could have an excuse to deceive himself. Lin Yi frowned slightly. He didn't understand what the center was doing. Shui Jianfeng's words didn't sound fake. Could it be that the center was interested in one of the formulas from Miracle Dr. Guan's medical group? But these formulas were only useful in the common world. Before entering Heaven Tier Island, these formulas were still valuable. After Heaven Tier Island was opened, there would be more high-level pills and formulas that were better than Miracle Dr. Guan's products in the common world. The center originally had a way to connect the two places, so they shouldn't be eyeing these things. Actually, Lin Yi was wrong. The pills and formulas from Heaven Tier Island were indeed better than those from Miracle Dr. Guan's medical group, but the problem was that it was built on higher difficulty and higher quality materials. In terms of the same level, Lin Yi's formulas were definitely the best in Miracle Dr. Guan's medical group. This time, what the center needed was to steadily improve from the foundation. It would be strange if they didn't look for Miracle Dr. Guan's medical group. Just as he was thinking about it, the hotel staff rushed over. Lin Yi's action of kicking the door had already triggered the alarm in the hotel. This floor was filled with the most distinguished guests, so the hotel staff didn't dare to neglect them. So, they came to deal with it immediately. Seeing that the people from the hotel were about to enter, Shui Jianfeng gave Chen Dongqing a meaningful look and then took the lead to stand up and say, Senior Lin, there is still a misunderstanding in today's matter. Let this junior and old Chen settle the matter at the hotel first, then we will come back to listen to Senior's orders. Lin Yi didn't say anything and let Shui Jianfeng pull Chen Dongqing out of the door. He passionately told the hotel staff that it was all a misunderstanding and that they would immediately compensate for the broken door. Then he half-forcefully brought the staff downstairs to settle the matter. It was a miracle to be able to take this opportunity to escape. Shui Jianfeng wanted to hug the hotel staff and give them 2 kisses. This was the legendary timely rain. Languza watched Shui Jianfeng and Chen Dongqing leave. His heart felt like it was being scratched by a cat. He couldn't help but ask, Boss, why didn't you just get rid of those 2? The people from the center aren't good people. Chapter 5701. Kang Xiaobo clapped his hands and said, I understand, boss, you want to cast a long line to catch a big fish. These 2 guys are the bait for fishing. That's right, that's what I mean. Lin Yi did not hide it. Before leaving the secular world, it was best to deal with the central forces of the secular world. Even if he could not uproot them, he should at least cripple them so that they would not dare to come out and cause trouble in a short period of time. It was easy to kill Shui Jianfeng and Chen Dongqing, but it was not easy to catch the tail of the central force. Now that the central force had exposed the tail of the Sacred Alliance, Lin Yi of course had to hold on tight. The reason why he released Shui Jianfeng and Chen Dongqing was so that he could ask them something useful the next time he saw them. Lai Changyi suddenly said, Boss, I think the guy who called you Martial Uncle Master seems to want to rely on Boss. If he can betray us and become a spy, we will have a greater chance to deal with the central force. If there is a chance, we can contact this guy in private. Lin Yi smiled and nodded to Lai Changyi but did not say much. Lai Changyi immediately understood that Lin Yi had this plan for a long time, and there was no need for him to remind Lin Yi. Otherwise, Lin Yi should have directly caught Chen Dongqing and interrogated him, instead of letting him go so easily and letting the 2 people leave together. In addition to casting a long line to catch a big fish, he also found an excuse to release Chen Dongqing. Whether or not Chen Dongqing would really be able to betray them in the future, there was no need to think too much about it now. After all, it was just a profound ascension early stage that had been forcefully raised. Languza alone could beat them up. If they really did not want face when given, then it would only be a matter of time before they were eliminated. On the second day nothing happened. Shui Jianfeng and Shui Jianfeng seemed to have disappeared into thin air, never to be seen again. Lin Yi wasn't used to using his divine sense to lock onto people yet, so he was shaken off by them after some distance. After all, they were from the ancient Jianghu, so they should have some tricks up their sleeves in terms of divine sense. As for Qin Dongqing following Shui Jianfeng to avoid Lin Yi's divine sense tracking, Lin Yi did not care too much. Qin Dongqing was probably still hesitating, and Lin Yi did not give him a clear hint, so it was normal for Qin Dongqing to do this. The medical exhibition finally opened smoothly. The people from the Sacred Alliance did not continue to provoke the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group. Instead, they set up their own stall. Of course, their stall was the biggest and the best location, much better than the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group stall. What surprised Lin Yi was that he actually saw an old acquaintance here, the people from the Dr. Kong Medical Group. Although their relationship was not that good, they were still acquaintances. Although Kong Ming Ming was still on Heaven Tier Island, when he saw the people from the Kong family, Lin Yi would naturally think of Kong Ming Ming. Speaking of which, Kong Ming Ming and Shui Jianfeng were quite similar. These two were definitely the representatives of the undying cockroach family. No matter how they were photographed, they would still be able to survive. If these two could meet each other, there might be a scene where they would appreciate each other. This time, the representative of Dr. Kong was Kong Guifeng, Kong Ming Ming's uncle. Their booth was next to the Sacred Alliance, and Kong Guifeng was happily chatting with the people from the Sacred Alliance. Lin Yi suspected that the people from the Dr. Kong Medical Group were invited by the Sacred Alliance. Could it be that their goal was to discuss Lin Yi? Or, another possibility was that the center could not get the various formulas from the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group, so they wanted to get something similar from the Dr. Kong Medical Group? After all, the products of the two companies were very similar. Kong Guifeng did not see Lin Yi's arrival. After chatting with the people from the Sacred Alliance for a while, he followed a person from the Sacred Alliance to the resting room at the back. Lin Yi didn't have much interest in small fries like Guifeng, but he had been paying attention to the Sacred Alliance for a long time. In order to get to the core through the Sacred Alliance, he wouldn't let go of even the slightest clue. He extended his divine sense silently, wanting to monitor every movement of Kong Guifeng and the Sacred Alliance. However, what surprised Lin Yi was that his divine sense was blocked outside the resting room. It was completely isolated. This resting room is strange. After the shock, Lin Yi felt a sense of joy. His divine sense could not enter, which meant that there was an unspeakable secret, such as the important person in the center. Otherwise, who in the common world would be able to stop Lin Yi's consciousness from prying? Xiaobo, you guys stay here. Jingyi and Lenguza stay here to help too. I will go over there for a while. Lin Yi turned around and said, then he quickly walked towards the resting room. Since divine sense could not enter, then he would just let his spirit go in. If he could catch the core person in the center, then he could follow the clues to get rid of the power of the center in the mortal world. That would be great. At this time in the resting room, Kong Guifeng saw Shui Jianfeng alone. Qin Dongqing did not come with Shui Jianfeng this time. He probably felt that Kong Guifeng was not worthy to be dealt with by two masters of the profound ascension stage. You are Kong Guifeng of Dr. Kong Medicine? I came to see you this time to ask you to take out the special edition formula of your Kong family's Golden Sword medicine, and then cooperate with the Sacred Alliance to develop new medical products. This condition is very generous. Are you very grateful for my generosity? Shui Jianfeng said to Kong Guifeng indifferently. He was actually very unhappy about this task. Coming to the exhibition site, it was easy to be discovered by Lin Yi. Although Shui Jianfeng used a divine sense item that he brought from the small ancient world to block the detection of divine sense, he was still not at ease. Last night, he managed to escape from the clutches of Lin Yi. What if he was caught by Lin Yi again? Kong Guifeng smiled, nodded and said, you must be young Master Shui, right? It is a supreme honor for our Kong family to cooperate with young Master Shui's Sacred Alliance. But the special edition formula of the Golden Sword medicine is an important secret that our Kong family relies on to survive. We can't just hand it over to the Sacred Alliance. I hope young Master Shui can understand. Shui Jianfeng said impatiently, it's just a broken formula, and you treat it as a treasure. If it wasn't for the fact that our Sacred Alliance has a use for it, who would want such a broken thing? Chapter 5702. In fact, Shui Jianfeng was not joking this time. He used to be a genius disciple of the Snow Sword School. What kind of healing elixir couldn't he get? The Gold Sword medicine wasn't even close to being a medicinal elixir. How could he care about it? If the center didn't need it, who would care about this Kong Guifeng who reeked of money? Forget it, I won't talk nonsense with you. Take a look at this video yourself. Shui Jianfeng waved his hand impatiently and opened a video file on his computer. After coming to the secular world, these high-tech gadgets became the things that attracted Shui Jianfeng the most. There was a projector and a speaker in the lounge. Shui Jianfeng directly projected the video on the screen. The image flashed and a person appeared on the screen. Illumination. Kong Guifeng was surprised. He didn't expect to see the pride of the Kong family, Kong Mingming. I am Kong Mingming. I wonder who in the Kong family will see this video of mine. No matter who it is, listen carefully to what I say. This video was obviously pre-recorded and not directly connected. Therefore, Kong Guifeng didn't say anything. He just looked at Kong Mingming's proud expression and felt a little happy. The better Kong Mingming did, the more stable the Kong family's position would be. If the Sacred Alliance wanted the Kong family's formula, they could directly snatch it. However, the fact that they were willing to cooperate should be because of Kong Mingming. I now hold a very important position in the central organization on Heaven Stage Island. Therefore, if anyone from the Kong family in the secular world comes looking for the Kong family and asks for assistance, no matter what the request is, feel free to agree. If we cooperate with the Kong family, we will definitely not mistreat the Kong family. You must remember this. Kong Xiaoming said solemnly. Whether or not he was important in the center of Sky Tier Island didn't matter, but having House Kong of the common world fully cooperate with the center was obviously beneficial to him. The center was giving Kong Mingming face by allowing him to get a video from the Heavenly Island. Otherwise, if they directly attacked the Kong family in the secular world, Kong Mingming probably wouldn't dare to object. The Kong family's formula was slightly worse than the Miracle Dr. Guan medical groups. They weren't the center's main target. They were just a spare tire. Otherwise, they wouldn't have waited for Kong Mingming's video and would have been forcefully taken by the center. In the video, Kong Mingming bragged about his current status. In summary, he said that he, Kong Mingming, could totally become the support of the Kong family in the center. Therefore, the Kong family didn't need to hesitate at all. If they fully supported the center, they would definitely be repaid tenfold or even 100-fold. Kong Guifeng was very excited after watching the video. After Shui Jianfeng turned off the video, he immediately shouted with a red face, "Young Master Shui, since this is what my Xiaoming wants, then there's nothing more to say. Whatever formula you want, as long as the Kong family has it, we will give it to the center to use." Shui Jianfeng's face looked much better. After all, he knew that Kong Mingming from the Kong family was on the Heavenly Island, so his attitude naturally became gentler. Alright. We don't need too many formulas from the Kong family. We just need the special edition of the Golden Sword medicine. The contributions of the Kong family will be recorded. In the future there will definitely be benefits for you. Shui Jianfeng said with a satisfied smile. After settling Kong Guifeng's formula, he could leave this place and return to the secret hideout as soon as possible. It would be too troublesome if he accidentally encountered Lin Yi. Thank you for your care, young Master Shui. Then I will go prepare the formula now. I will send it to you in a moment. If young Master Shui has nothing else to do, please rest here for a while. Kong Guifeng said respectfully with a bow. Although he didn't know whose position was higher between Kong Mingming and this young Master Shui, but Kong Ming was far away on the Heavenly Island. He felt that it was safer to be obedient and respectful to Shui Jianfeng. Shui Jianfeng was very satisfied with Kong Guifeng's attitude. He smiled and waved his hand. Alright, you go and prepare the formula as soon as possible. My time is limited. I can't wait too long. Yes. Young Master Shui, don't worry. It won't take too long. As long as you contact the people in China and let them scan a copy of the formula from the safe, it will take no more than 10 minutes. Kong Guifeng nodded and said with a smile. Then he turned around and walked out, not daring to delay at all. After Shui Jianfeng waited for Kong Guifeng to go out, he picked up the red wine glass in front of him, gently swirled it a few times, took a small sip and said with satisfaction, "It seems that today's task is quite easy. We can go back soon. Should I report to the glasses doctor first?" In fact, Shui Jianfeng didn't drink red wine before, but when he saw Kong Xiaobo and Lai Changyi's calm drinking posture last night, he felt that it was very suitable for him to act cool and handsome, so he searched online. Today he learned to drink it and it really felt good. It was just that Shui Jianfeng didn't expect that when he was talking to himself, there was actually someone who could follow up. Then I will report first. Shui Jianfeng almost threw the wine glass in his hand. This voice, isn't it Lin Yi who made me on tenterhooks? It's obvious that I'm alone in the lounge. How can Lin Yi's voice appear here? Moreover, in this lounge I have set up a device to isolate divine sense. No matter how powerful Lin Yi's divine sense is, it's impossible to discover me. Shui Jianfeng didn't have time to think too much. He turned around in horror and it turned out to be Lin Yi. Moreover, he was less than 2 steps behind him with a calm smile on his face. No matter how he looked at it, he felt hateful. Haha, it turns out to be Senior Lin. What a coincidence. It's really a small world. Why don't you get up and have a drink? Shui Jianfeng squeezed out a fake smile, but he was already crying in his heart. I've long said that this damn mission is the easiest to meet Lin Yi. What I'm afraid of really happens. Lin Yi smiled faintly and said, aren't you going to report the situation to that doctor with glasses? Hurry up, just pretend that I don't exist. Do you want me to disappear first? Shui Jianfeng wanted to cry but had no tears. How would he dare to let Lin Yi disappear? Wasn't this looking for him to disappear? Speaking of which, if he could really disappear in front of Lin Yi, it didn't seem to be a bad thing. Senior Lin, you must be joking. I don't know when you came? Why didn't I see you come in? Shui Jianfeng said perfunctorily, but in his heart he was thinking about how to get out. Should I kick the lounge door down and let the staff come over to help? To be continued. Chapter 5703. I've only been here for a short while and I just happened to see Kang Mingming's video. If you don't want to report to the glasses professor, then report to me honestly. Lin Yi walked to Shui Jianfeng and sat down casually. As he spoke, Lin Yi extended a finger. There was a purplish-blue electric arc flickering at the tip of his finger, making a light crackling sound. Shui Jianfeng's face turned pale. He was already traumatized by Lin Yi's lightning. He couldn't stay calm facing such a blatant threat. After letting out 2 hollow laughs, Shui Jianfeng had already decided to be a wise man who knew his place. He straightened his body and said with a serious expression, Senior Lin, I originally wanted to come up here to look for you after settling the matter of the gate downstairs. However, after thinking about it, I felt that it would be more sincere to ask for some useful information and come here to apologize. Therefore, I specially came here today to inform you. Shui Jianfeng felt like he was a genius. With just 2 sentences, he managed to cover up what happened last night and today so that Lin Yi wouldn't be able to hold on to these 2 points. Lin Yi looked at Shui Jianfeng with a smile that wasn't a smile. He nodded slightly. Let's hear it. It's like this. Last night, I didn't hear the reason why the center wanted the formula from Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group, so after I went back I specially asked around about this. As expected, I found something. Actually, the center wants to research a new medicine to advance their experimental progress. Shui Jianfeng said while wondering if what he said was related to the core secrets of the center. Normal information wouldn't matter. Lin Yi looked at Shui Jianfeng coldly, and the electric arc on his fingertip became thicker. Then he said indifferently, don't talk about useless things, get to the point. Shui Jianfeng suddenly had an idea. He couldn't care about anything anymore. He quickly said, actually, the center has always been researching medicine to increase the strength of cultivators. In the ancient Jianghu, they have successfully increased the foundation establishment stage to the golden core stage, the original soul stage, and even the profound ascension stage. I'm the best example. But after returning to the secular world, firstly, the ingredients for concocting potions are hard to find, and secondly, it's even harder to find cultivators, so this research can't continue. Lin Yi nodded in his heart. What Shui Jianfeng said was the truth. The secular world couldn't be compared to the primordial era. Not to mention those precious materials, just the cultivators were hard to find. According to Lin Yi's estimation, the best medium to promote a cultivator would be a cultivator in the foundation establishment stage. It was a huge hurdle for a heaven stage great perfection to advance to the foundation establishment stage. It was not easy for an ordinary person to advance to the heaven stage great perfection, let alone the foundation establishment stage. Not to mention the huge price needed, it was almost impossible for an ordinary person to endure the pain of the foundation establishment stage. What Shui Jianfeng said next was more or less in line with Lin Yi's conjecture. It was precisely because of this that the center had no choice but to change the direction of their research. You said that the center wants the special edition formula of the gold sore medicine to research a new recovery medicine? And then? Lin Yi was quite satisfied with Shui Jianfeng's performance, but he still maintained a strong enough tone in his words. Shui Jianfeng didn't dare to be negligent. Since he had already said a lot, he didn't mind saying a little more. This new medicine originally had 2 uses. As I said just now, it's very difficult to advance from the heaven stage to the foundation establishment stage. Ordinary people won't be able to endure the pain at all. So this new recovery medicine is to let these people successfully endure the danger of the foundation establishment stage. Originally, advancing from nascent soul to profound ascension is also dangerous. If it's not someone with a strong will like me or an ambitious cultivator like Old Chin, it's also very difficult to endure the pain of advancement. This new medicine is also effective in this situation. Although it's not very effective, it can at least increase the success rate by 10%. However, advancing from nascent soul to profound ascension requires sea beast genes, so it can't be carried out for the time being. This is the first use. The second use is to add the new recovery medicine to the biochemical humans we're researching, so that these biochemical humans can recover instantly when they're injured. Even if they can't recover instantly, they can at least recover on their own within a short period of time. To be honest, I feel that this is the main purpose. Shui Jianfeng was going all out. In order to survive, he didn't even care about helping Lin Yi with the analysis. After listening to Shui Jianfeng's words, Lin Yi couldn't help but be slightly moved. This center was indeed scary. Putting aside the fact that it could increase the cultivator's strength, the biochemical human project was also quite scary. Although the biochemical humans didn't seem to have a high level, the center could mass-produce them. Lin Yi had interacted with the biochemical humans created by Jiang Wen before. He knew how annoying these cheap things were. If the center created biochemical humans that could recover instantly, Lin Yi wouldn't be afraid, but the world would probably be in trouble. The ordinary people on the streets were the basic materials for the creation of biohumans. As long as they had some potions, they would be able to produce them endlessly. What was even more frightening was that if the center combined the two research projects into one and allowed the biohumans, who could heal themselves instantly and without pain, to become experimental subjects to increase their strength, they might end up with a powerful army of biohumans. Thinking of this possibility, even Lin Yi felt a chill. No matter what, this center had to be dealt with. Otherwise, there would be endless troubles in the future. Senior Lin, I've told you all the information I've gathered. Should I go back first and report to you if there's any news? Shui Jianfeng stole a glance at Lin Yi's expression and asked carefully. If Lin Yi could let him go this time, he would definitely run as far away as he could. He didn't want to see Lin Yi ever again. Lin Yi came back to his senses. Shui Jianfeng obviously didn't know how much of a shock his words had brought to Lin Yi. After thinking for a while, Lin Yi said faintly, "You stay here first. When Kang Guifeng brings the formula here, send him away and continue waiting here. I have some things for you to do." After a slight pause, Lin Yi continued, "Don't think about escaping. My divine sense will be monitoring you at all times. Although there's a divine sense barrier here, you won't be able to hide once you leave this place. If I find out that you're trying to escape, you're dead." Chapter 5704. Shui Jianfeng, who felt like crying at his own stupidity, didn't realize that Lin Yi only wanted to investigate Kang Guifeng because he saw him with the people from the Sacred Alliance. If he didn't have this item, Lin Yi's divine sense would still be able to detect Shui Jianfeng, and the result wouldn't be any different. Shui Jianfeng replied weakly. Then he saw Lin Yi turn into a shadow and disappear from the room. Only then did he remember that Lin Yi was still a primordial spirit. No wonder he could appear behind him without a sound. When Lin Yi left the room, Kang Guifeng ran over excitedly with his phone in his hand. Lin Yi had an idea and knocked Kang Guifeng unconscious. Then he picked up his phone and looked at it. "Haha, I'm lucky." Lin Yi saw that Kang Guifeng's unlocked phone was the hardcover version of Dr. Kang's Golden Sore medicine, and he immediately laughed. He was still thinking about how to change this formula, but it was so easy to get his hands on it. Kang Guifeng received a document that could be changed. It wasn't a scanned document or a text message. Those weren't easy to change. Only a document with this format wouldn't leave any traces even if it was changed. Of course, Lin Yi wouldn't waste such an opportunity. He quickly changed the key ingredients in the formula. This formula wasn't as good as the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group's original formula. Now that he changed it, the value of the ingredients was raised by a notch, but the effect was reduced by more than half. When the people in the center verified the problem, Lin Yi would probably be able to find their nest. He put the phone back in Kang Guifeng's hand, woke him up and left silently. Kang Guifeng woke up in a daze. He didn't know what happened to him. Was it because he was too tired? Lin Yi noticed that all the booths were bustling with activity by the time he got back to the exhibition. There were pretty boys and girls on each of the booths, attracting attention and attention. Judging from the cheers from the crowd, many of them were famous celebrities. However, Linny didn't know any of these Western celebrities, so he didn't pay attention to them after a glance. Unlike the other booths, the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group's booth was empty. Although Sun Jingyi was a top-grade beauty, and Languza was also handsome, they weren't famous. At most, they would attract some attention before being snatched away by other celebrities. Boss, we miscalculated. We forgot to invite a celebrity to help us. Seeing that Linny had returned, Kang Xiaobo lowered his head in shame. Lai Changyi smiled bitterly and said, even if we contact them now, it's basically impossible to find a famous celebrity. After all, they have their own schedule. The two of them were indeed a little careless this time. Due to the matter of the Sacred Alliance, they had focused all their attention on the Sacred Alliance. Instead, they had neglected the means to attract people at the exhibition. The exhibition had just started, but the booths with celebrities had already attracted the attention of the crowd. As time went by, the situation would only worsen. It was human nature to like liveliness. The more crowded a place was, the more people there would be. The quieter a place was, the less people there would be. Linny smiled and said nonchalantly, it doesn't matter. Our products are good anyway. It doesn't matter if there's a celebrity or not. Didn't you guys say that these things were smuggled to Europe to be sold? This means that the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group's products have a good reputation. Kang Ming laughed and said, Boss, you're right. Good wine needs no bush. We don't need a celebrity. As long as we bring out our own products, it'll be enough to attract attention. Lin Yi suddenly smiled mysteriously and said, actually, it's not impossible for you to invite a celebrity. There's an international superstar that came to your door. Whether you can invite her or not depends on your own methods. Kang Ming was stunned and said, international superstar? Oh, where is she? Lai Changyi also turned his fat neck and looked around. Yeah, I don't see her either. Boss, where is this superstar that you mentioned? Linny smiled and didn't say anything. He turned around and walked towards the door. Just then, a woman in casual clothes came in. She had a baseball cap on her head and a pair of wide-rimmed sunglasses that covered half of her face. Her ponytail swayed gently behind her. Seeing Lin Yi walking over, she suddenly revealed a big smile. Brother Lin, how did you know that I'm here? Seeing Lin Yi greet her with a smile, the woman in the baseball cap quickened her pace and rushed into Lin Yi's arms. She hugged him tightly. Then she felt a little embarrassed to do so in front of so many people, so she immediately broke free. In fact, she was thinking too much. Other than Kang Xiaobo, Sun Jingyi, and the others, no one paid attention to the situation here at all. Moreover, this was Europe and hugging and kissing were very normal etiquette. No one would look at them differently. Lin Yi reached out and took off the big sunglasses on her face and said with a smile, I can feel that you're here. Why are you wearing sunglasses in the middle of the night? Don't you think it's a little too obvious? After taking off the sunglasses, a delicate smile appeared under the baseball cap. She wrinkled her delicate nose at Lin Yi, then poked her head out from Lin Yi's side and waved to Sun Jingyi and the others. Sister Jingyi, Xiaobo, and Fatty Lai, hello everyone. Sun Jingyi, who followed them, showed a surprised smile. She took 2 steps forward and grabbed her hand. Sharon, why are you here? Didn't you say that you're a guest for Chengyi? I'm a guest. I heard that you guys were here, so I rushed over before the concert ended. Su Shirhan said with a smile. Knowing that Lin Yi was here, even if it was her own concert, she would still rush over, not to mention being a guest for Chengyi. But this way Chengyi would inevitably complain, but she couldn't care less. In fact, Chengyi also wanted to come. She was quite disappointed that Lin Yi couldn't come to her first concert. If it was possible, she really wanted to come with Su Shirhan. Unfortunately, this concert wasn't over yet. Even if it was over, they had to rush to the next city to prepare. She really didn't have as much free time as Su Shirhan. Chapter 5705. If they really asked Su Shirhan to hold the fort, then today's exhibition would explode. One had to know that Su Shirhan's popularity in Europe was no less than in China. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that she was an international superstar. The number of superstars in the world that could compete with Su Shirhan was definitely less than a handful. In the music industry, she had the momentum of being the world's #1. Lai Changyi came up and complained, I say, Superstar Su, you always call others brother and sister. How come it's Fatty Lai when it comes to me? Isn't this too much discrimination? Su Shirhan pretended to be shocked. Isn't your name Fatty Lai? Who would call themselves Fatty Lai? It's Lai Changyi. Lai Changyi. Lai Changyi looked like he was going crazy and said in a funny way. Everyone laughed. The friendship between old friends could be clearly shown in a few sentences. Linny was also very happy. Su Shirhan used to look like a fairy that didn't eat the food of the world, but now she knew how to joke around with Lai Chang'e. This was a huge improvement. It was a pity that Yao Yao and Shu, the two best friends of Su Shirhan, couldn't laugh together. It was a pity that Lin Yi felt a little regretful. Brother Lin Yi said that you promised to go to her concert, but you didn't go. She's very unhappy. She wants you to go to Lan Mi's concert, or else she'll teach you a lesson. Su Shirhan turned around and smiled at Lin Yi. It seemed like she wanted to see how Cheng Yi would teach Lin Yi a lesson. Lin Yi could only smile. I can only try my best. If things go smoothly here, then I'll go with you to Lan Mi. Su Shirhan was in a good mood. This was what she wanted to hear. It was a rare opportunity to go with Lin Yi. Kang Xiaobo saw that Su Shirhan was smiling like a flower, and she was in a good mood. He immediately seized the opportunity and said, Sister-in-law Shirhan, look, we forgot to find a star to hold the line at the exhibition today. It just so happens that you're here, why don't you save the show by the way? Shirhan blushed and stuttered, What sister-in-law? Kang Xiaobo, what are you talking about? Although she had already confessed to Lin Yi and their relationship was more or less clear, but being called sister-in-law by Kang Xiaobo like this, Su Shirhan still felt happy and embarrassed. I, Kang Xiaobo, am never a person who talks nonsense. Alright, let's hurry up and get ready to go on stage. You see, it's like putting out a fire. There's no time to waste. Kang Xiaobo smiled and gave Lai Chang'e a look. Boss Lin Yi said that whether or not they could invite Su Shirhan would depend on their methods. Now that they were about to succeed, they hoped that there wouldn't be any accidents. Lai Chang'e also understood. Taking advantage of Shirhan's shyness and uneasiness, he wanted to beat the drum and settle this matter. Sun Jingyi also covered her mouth and giggled. She didn't seem to have any intention of standing up for Shirhan. Lin Yi could only smile helplessly. Alright, you two want to invite Shirhan on stage. No matter what, you should at least contact her manager, right? Only after negotiating the appearance fee can we continue the process. Brother Lin, you're also making fun of me with them. Shirhan stomped her feet slightly and said to Lin Yi. Lai Chang'e laughed and said, That's right. Boss, what you said is wrong. As a follower, I can't side with you. We and Shirhan in law aren't outsiders. Why do we need to find a manager and talk about appearance fee? Boss, am I right? Shirhan's face became redder and redder. She glared at Lai Chang'e and said, Fatty Lai, you talk too much. Do you still want me to go on stage? Hurry up and go. Kang Xiaobo and Lai Chang'e were overjoyed. They looked at each other and split up like a lackey, leading Shirhan to the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group's booth. Lin Yi also smiled and shook his head. He knew that they were just joking. He didn't mind and brought Sun Jingyi and Lenguza over there. After Shirhan went on stage, she threw her baseball cap to Lai Chang'e. She loosened her ponytail and let her hair down. In an instant, her body seemed to be emitting 1,000 rays of light. As expected of an international superstar. Her aura wasn't something ordinary people could compare with. Picking up the microphone that Kang Xiaobo handed over, Shirhan didn't say anything. She directly started singing. Ethereal, extremely penetrating voice spread to every corner of the venue. It instantly suppressed all other sounds. In just a breath's time, all other sounds disappeared. Only Shirhan's voice was echoing in the venue. There was no need for any words. Shirhan's voice was better than thousands of words. After a short moment of silence, people everywhere started screaming, Shirhan! Shirhan is singing. Ah, Shirhan! Shirhan is here. Where? Where is Shirhan? There. Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group's booth. It's really Shirhan. Reality proved that chasing stars was the same whether it was in China or abroad. When a superstar like Su Shirhan appeared, the seats in front of those stars instantly became empty and desolate. It was a miserable scene. Almost everyone who came to the exhibition ran to this booth at the same time. They were afraid that if they were a bit slower, they would lose a better position to get closer to the booth. Lin Yi was also stunned. He knew that Shirhan was a superstar, but he didn't expect her popularity to be this terrifying. This was only in Europe. If it was in China, it would be even more terrifying. Luckily, Kang Xiaobo and Lai Chang'e had some mental preparation. They had already pulled Lenguza along to protect the booth so that the fans wouldn't rush to the stage and disturb Shirhan. Shirhan smiled and waved to the fans below the stage. She was still holding the microphone and singing. That kind of fairy-like voice made people feel a sense of joy that cleansed their souls. The people below the stage automatically kept quiet. Those who managed to get a position started waving their hands back and forth, slowly dancing to Shirhan's rhythm. Shirhan's sister's popularity is really terrifying. Whatever she endorses, there's nothing that isn't popular. Sun Jingyi stood beside Lin Yi and said with a smile. Lin Yi also smiled when he heard that. If that's the case, it seems like Shirhan is the spokesperson of Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group. It's perfectly justifiable for her to save the scene today. Chapter 5706. Of course, most of it was because of Lin Yi. Talking about this topic today reminded Lin Yi of many things that happened back then, and he couldn't help but sigh. Recently, Lin Yi found himself thinking about the past more and more. Perhaps it was because Yao Yao and Shu were still unconscious, and he was under a lot of pressure. If it wasn't for the Central, Lin Yi would have gone back to Sky Class Island and found his cheap master, Zhang Liju, and asked him to save Yao Yao and the others. Unfortunately, if the Central didn't get rid of them, Lin Yi wouldn't be able to go back in peace. If the Central did something, it'd be too late for regrets. While he was lost in thought, Su Shirhan finished her song and smiled at the crowd. Hello everyone, I'm Su Shirhan. Su Shirhan. Su Shirhan. Su Shirhan. The crowd burst into cheers. There was no need for any instructions or rehearsals, they just appeared naturally. One could see the influence of a superstar. Before Su Shirhan could continue, the crowd was forcefully separated in the middle. 6 European men in black suits surrounded a Caucasian young man, like a small boat cutting through the waves, forcibly creating a path. The people who were pushed away couldn't help but start cursing. Those who opened their mouths were secretly attacked by the 6 men in black suits, and they all fell to the ground, unable to speak anymore. For a moment, no one dared to go up and argue, and they could only stare at these people angrily. The white man who was surrounded by 6 men in black looked at Su Shirhan with an intoxicated expression. He came to the front of the stage and said loudly, "Beautiful Miss Su, I am Igratapovic, one of the ancient nobles of Europe. You're the goddess of my dreams, and it's my honor to be able to see you today. I wonder if Miss Su has time? I'd like to invite you for a cup of coffee." As he spoke, Igratapovich bowed slightly, and assumed the air of a gentleman. Su Shirhan smiled faintly. "I'm sorry Mr. Igratapovic, I don't have time, so I can only reject your invitation." Lin Yi was right here, and Su Shirhan wouldn't even care about anything important, let alone drinking coffee with this ancient noble. Igor Radapovich's face changed. He was a person with a high status in Europe. As long as he was interested in a celebrity, no one would dare to reject his invitation. But this Su Shirhan rejected him without hesitation. This made him feel embarrassed. It must be that Su Shirhan didn't know who she was talking to, it must be. Such a beautiful woman should be given another chance. Igratapovich thought, then he smiled and said, "Miss Su, perhaps you don't know my identity. My family is a famous and ancient aristocratic family in Europe. Even today, it is still one of the driving forces of Europe's economy. As long as I want, anyone can quickly become famous in Europe. Don't you want to consider my proposal? Maybe we can go to the hotel I'm staying at and have a good chat. We'll get to know each other better." Lin Yi's face turned cold. Was this Povich guy stupid? How could he say something like this to Su Shirhan in front of him? Was he tired of living? But Lin Yi didn't need to say anything. Su Shirhan's fans couldn't take it anymore. No matter how strong this Igratapovich was, humiliating their goddess in front of them was unacceptable. Many people pointed at him and started cursing. Unfortunately, the 6 men in black were far stronger than normal people. They were almost equivalent to early-phase golden class physical practitioners. The normal people who spoke up were quickly beaten to the ground. "Stop. What are you doing? Please leave this place, I don't welcome you." Su Shirhan, who was always calm, couldn't hold back her anger. These were her fans. No matter what, she couldn't tolerate someone hitting her fans in front of her. Igratapovich laughed coldly. "Miss Su, where do you think this is? This is Europe. You're just a celebrity. Do you think you're a noble princess? Be a good girl and come with me. We'll have a good chat in the room tonight. I guarantee that your reputation in Europe will rise or else." With a flash, Lin Yi appeared in front of Igratapovich like a ghost, raising his hand and slapping the idiot across the face. The sound of the slap was crisp and the idiot was sent flying. Just like Fan Jian, all his teeth were scattered in the air as he fell to the ground with Fan Jian. "I told you to leave, so leave. What's the point of talking so much? Who do you think you are? Don't you know how popular Su Shirhan is? You're just a small family in Europe. How dare you talk big?" Lin Yi said mockingly as he looked coldly at Igratapovich, whose face was half swollen and the corner of his mouth was bleeding. If it weren't for the fact that he was just a normal person, Lin Yi would have killed him already. After Lin Yi finished speaking, the 6 bodyguards reacted and roared. One of them went to support Kratopovic while the other 5 pounced on Lin Yi at the same time. Without Lin Yi doing anything, Languza shouted excitedly. "Boss, I'll do it." It wasn't easy for him to get a chance to fight. Languza didn't want to miss it. A whirlwind swept past and the 5 bodyguards in black were all grabbed by the collars of their shirts by Languza. They were unable to move at all. To Languza, this kind of thing was like a walk in the park. It was easy and enjoyable. Languza turned around and asked, "Boss, how should I deal with them? Kill them?" Lin Yi said casually, "Don't kill them. The rest is up to you." Languza nodded and excitedly brought the 5 bodyguards to the side. He began to think about how to deal with them. These weaklings could only be used to train his control. Boss said as long as they don't die it's fine. After that, Lin Yi heard the sounds of bones breaking. Languza was indeed using these people to practice his control of his strength. It was a pity that his control didn't seem to be very good. Fortunately, he knew to cover the mouths of these 5 fellows first, so they didn't let out any cries of agony. Lin Yi was stunned. Chapter 5707. The commotion quickly alerted the organizer. 4 men in security uniforms quickly ran over and shouted at Languza, "Stop! What are you doing? This is murder." Languza stopped for a second. Lin Yi ordered indifferently. Languza agreed quickly and threw the 5 guys back in front of Lin Yi. When Kratopovic saw the miserable state of his 5 men, he immediately trembled all over. The bodyguard who went to help him was also secretly afraid. He thought to himself, "Fortunately, I didn't go over, otherwise I would also be in such a miserable state." The 4 security guards ran over and saw the limbs of the 5 men on the ground. They were completely broken. Their faces turned pale and they pulled out their guns to point at Lin Yi and the others. Lin Yi smiled and didn't care about the guns at all. He said calmly, "These 5 friends said that they wanted to cooperate and display the effects of our Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group's products. Of course we have to fulfill their wish. Please take a closer look." After saying that, Lin Yi took out 5 third-rank Great Huan pills and signaled Languza to give them to the 5 unlucky bastards. These third-rank Great Huan pills were useless to cultivators, especially those who were above the foundation establishment stage. However, to ordinary people it was no different from an immortal pill. After a few minutes, the 5 men's arms started to heal miraculously. Everyone was shocked. "Your booth has violated the rules of this conference. We have to disqualify you. Now we are going to kick you out completely. It's best if you can cooperate." Although the 4 security guards felt that this miracle was unbelievable, it didn't change their minds. One of them announced their decision to Lin Yi coldly. "Disqualify me? Get kicked out on the spot?" Lin Yi frowned. He didn't expect this result. Kratopovic laughed loudly. He said in a muffled voice, "Hurry up and beg me. I can give you a chance." After being slapped by Lin Yi, Kratopovic didn't dare to be too arrogant. Although he was still a little angry, he didn't dare to approach Lin Yi and talk to him anymore. Lin Yi couldn't be bothered with this idiot. He sent a telepathic message to Shui Jianfeng, "Get your people from the Sacred Alliance to settle this. If you can't settle this in 3 minutes, I will deal with you." Since the Sacred Alliance was so powerful that they could influence the organizer of this conference, Lin Yi naturally had to order Shui Jianfeng around. It was like making use of trash. Shui Jianfeng, who was treated as trash, was shocked when he heard Lin Yi's voice. However, it wasn't strange anymore since it happened to Lin Yi. Although he didn't know what Lin Yi was doing, Shui Jianfeng wasn't willing to help Lin Yi. However, Shui Jianfeng's life was in Lin Yi's hands. No matter how unwilling he was, he had to do things for Lin Yi. Shui Jianfeng thought that he might be able to use this chance to escape. He kept the item that exposed him and left the house. There wasn't anyone outside. Shui Jianfeng searched through 2 rooms before he found someone from the Sacred Alliance. He ordered him to go to the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group's display cabinet to make sure that there wasn't any damage. The person from the Sacred Alliance didn't understand. The Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group was their enemy. Why would he help them solve their problem? If their problem was big enough, wouldn't it be the Sacred Alliance's chance? However, Shui Jianfeng was sent by the Sacred Alliance. His background was shocking. So this person didn't dare to ask too much. Who knew what the higher-ups were thinking? He was just a small character. He should just listen to orders. After respectfully agreeing to Shui Jianfeng's request, this person from the Sacred Alliance ran to the front. At the same time, he used his phone to contact the organizer of this conference. Shui Jianfeng thought that since Lin Yi couldn't leave now, it was a good opportunity for him to escape. Since he had already gotten the special edition of Dr. Kang's golden creation, he directly forwarded it to the glasses doctor. There was no point in staying. Good job. Go back to the resting room and wait. I'll look for you later. Shui Jianfeng was just about to sneak out when Lin Yi's telepathic voice rang in his ears. Shui Jianfeng didn't dare have any more thoughts, and could only obediently go back to where he was and drink his wine. At Miracle Dr. Guan's booth, the people from the Sacred Alliance didn't appear directly. They were watching the situation from afar. They already told the organizer of the conference not to cause trouble for the Miracle Dr. Guan medical group. Now, the 4 security guards immediately received an order from the higher-ups to apologize to the other party. They couldn't cause any dissatisfaction. The 4 people were stunned. Luckily, the order was transmitted through the earphones. If it was transmitted through the walkie-talkie, these 4 people wouldn't be able to live anymore. They would be humiliated to death. Ha ha, I was just joking. Looks like you guys haven't gotten used to our sense of humor yet. That's a pity. My friends from afar, I apologize for our joke just now. I hope you guys won't be unhappy. The face of the security guard who wanted to expel the Miracle Dr. Guan medicine group changed. He suddenly laughed loudly and put away his gun at the same time. The other 3 weren't idiots. They just received the order and saw that the leader found an excuse, so they laughed and said that it was just a joke. As for the gun, they naturally put it away. Everyone, please look over here. The products of the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group are definitely the best in the world. Our organizing committee spent a lot of effort to invite them here. The effect of the medicine is enough to prove it. My friends who need it, please seize this opportunity. The security guard turned around and immediately advertised the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group. It was as if the tension just now was really just a joke. Lin Yi smiled coldly at their performance. He didn't say anything. It seemed like the Sacred Alliance had a lot of influence here. Just a phone call was enough to make these security guards slap themselves in the face and still have to smile. Kang Xiaobo and the others felt strange. But since Lin Yi didn't say anything, they wouldn't say anything. Although they didn't understand the details, it wasn't a bad thing. They just let these security guards perform. Chapter 5708. If it was possible, Igor Radapovich would have killed them and told them that it was just a joke. Can't they have a sense of humor? The 4 security guards were cheering for the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group for a while, but when they saw Lin Yi and the others staring at them coldly, they couldn't help but smile awkwardly and turn to Igor Radapovich. After all, he wasn't someone they could offend. Young Master Igor Radapovich, this isn't something we can decide. Let's leave this place first. These Easterners have a powerful background. Can you go back and discuss this with someone else? The head of security bowed and apologized to Lin Yi before walking over to Igor Radapovich's side and begging softly. If Igor Radapovich didn't want to give up, they would be the ones in a difficult situation. However, after seeing how powerful these Easterners were, he didn't think that Igor Radapovich would be stupid enough to fight them head-on. These young masters were good at stabbing people in the dark. If they could handle it head-on, they could do it. If they couldn't, they would choose to attack from the back. Igor Radapovich glared at Lin Yi furiously. Half of his face was still swollen, and all his teeth had fallen out. It was a huge impact on his handsome image. There would be reporters paying attention to the exhibition, and if it weren't for the fact that it was only the beginning and the reporters weren't in position yet, he'd probably be on the headlines tomorrow with this face. Kid, Igor Radapovich, will remember you. As long as you're still in Europe, you'll fall into my hands one day. Be careful. Let's go. Igor Radapovich fiercely left with his bodyguards after uttering a few harsh words. Igor Radapovich was actually shocked by the Dahuan pill that Lin Yi took out. Broken bones healed in such a short time and he could barely walk. It was a miracle medicine. If it was possible, he wanted to find a way to collect some. It could save his life in a critical moment. What he didn't know was that although Lin Yi didn't care about the Great Recovery Pill, Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company really didn't sell it. Boss, are we going to let them go just like that? These idiots actually dare to threaten boss. How about I follow them and kill them? Languza wasn't having fun, so he came over and asked in a low voice. Lin Yi waved his hand and said, "Forget it, they are all ordinary people. You really have time. Let them go. What can a few ants do?" If it was someone who posed a threat, Lin Yi would, of course, eliminate the danger first. But this Povich guy, no matter how much he jumped around, he wouldn't be able to affect Lin Yi. Forget about Lin Yi, even if it was Su Shirhan, they wouldn't be a threat. After all, Su Shirhan was a top-notch master in the common world. A normal army might not even be her opponent. These small fries, what was there to worry about? Languza smacked his lips and thought to himself, trash is still meat. Unfortunately, boss won't allow it, so I can only let them off this time. After Igoropovich left, Su Shirhan sang another song and regained her popularity. She also comforted the fans who were beaten up and left the stage. The voluntary help ended there. Next, it was Kang Xiaobo and Lai Changyi's business. Su Shirhan wanted to spend more time with Lin Yi. Plus, Sun Jingyi wasn't a stranger to her, so they started chatting behind the stage. Although Su Shirhan didn't go on stage anymore, she was enough to attract more and more fans. The Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group's booth was almost packed. Luckily, Kang Xiaobo and Lai Changyi were masters, so they didn't let people rush in. But it couldn't go on like this, because no one cared about the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group's things. Everyone only had Su Shirhan in their eyes. It seems like it's not a good thing to be too popular. Lin Yi smiled and said to Su Shirhan. In his heart, he already wanted to leave with them. After all, there were so many people around, it was hard to talk properly. Sun Jingyi seemed to know Lin Yi's thoughts and suggested, why don't we leave here first? Anyway, Kang Xiaobo and Lai Changyi are here. The exhibition shouldn't be a problem. Sister Shirhan staying here will affect the normal operation of the booth. Su Shirhan stuck out her tongue cutely and smiled, then I'll leave. Brother Lin, where are we going to eat? Languza's eyes lit up before Lin Yi could say anything. There was no way he could stop the keyword, eat, from entering his ears. Boss, let's go eat. There's nothing fun here. It's better to eat. If they could fight here, Languza could barely stay for a while longer. But Lin Yi didn't let him fight, so his only fun was to eat. Of course, after eating, his only fun would be to buy clothes. Since the Sacred Alliance wouldn't come looking for trouble, Lin Yi didn't need to stay here anymore. He turned to Languza and said, bring them to find a place to eat. I still have something to do. I'll come back later. Protect them. Languza's face was full of smiles. He patted his chest and promised, don't worry, boss. I'll protect them well. The place to eat will definitely satisfy you. If it's not good, come find me. Lin Yi couldn't help but laugh. If it's not good, then find you to eat it all? That's to your liking. Sun Jingyi and Su Shirhan didn't have any objections. Lin Yi had things to do. They wouldn't stop Lin Yi from leaving. So after saying goodbye to Kang Xiaobo and Su Shirhan, they left the booth. Lin Yi casually set up a divine sense barrier. With his current divine sense, it wasn't hard to hide from cultivators of the same level or higher, let alone ordinary people. It didn't attract the attention of the fans at all. After Su Shirhan walked out of the door, the fans didn't even realize that their goddess had already left. It was even easier for Lin Yi to leave. In a flash, he was already out of the fans' encirclement. He was going to talk to Shui Jianfeng again. He wanted to see if he could get more information from him. Most importantly, he wanted to know the core members and the location of the base. Chapter 5709. Yo, if it isn't Lin Yi, I didn't expect to see you here. What's wrong? You couldn't survive in that place anymore, so you came back here? A dark male voice sounded beside Lin Yi. Lin Yi paused and turned around. It was Kang Guifeng's son, Kang Xiaolong. This guy used to call himself Xin Yan's fiancé and had a lot of dealings with Lin Yi. He was far more talented than his cousin, Kang Mingming, but in the end, that idiot Kang Mingming was doing much better than Xiaolong. Lin Yi didn't bother greeting this old acquaintance. He only looked at him coldly and turned around. Scram, I don't have time for you. Xiaolong laughed and pinched the light purple tie around his neck. He looked at Lin Yi with disdain. Did I hit a sore spot? Are you angry now? We're all friends here, what's there to be embarrassed about? Lin Yi couldn't be bothered with this idiot who thought so highly of himself. If it was Kang Mingming here, he wouldn't mind teaching him a lesson. Xiaolong? To put it bluntly, he didn't even have the right to be taught a lesson by Lin Yi. Hey Lin Yi, even if my Xiaoming kicked you out of that place, you don't have to run away from me, do you? You should at least talk to me, we're old acquaintances after all. Xiaolong saw that Lin Yi didn't say anything and got even more smug. He shook his suit and quickened his steps. Lin Yi frowned and stopped. He didn't want to bother with a small fry like Xiaolong, but it would be quite annoying if Xiaolong kept following him like a fly. Xiaolong, do you want to die? Lin Yi said coldly to Xiaolong, the impatience in his voice clear. Xiaolong paused and laughed. Are you trying to scare me, Lin Yi? I've heard from my Xiaoming that you're living a pitiful life in that place. You're just a small fry at the bottom of society, running away the moment you see our Xiaoming. If it weren't for Xiaoming's kindness, he'd have killed you long ago. What? You can't live there anymore, so you came back here to act cool? That's right, I'm not your match, but if you dare touch me, my Xiaoming won't let you off. Lin Yi almost laughed out of anger. After all this time, it turned out that this idiot Kang Xiaolong was just bragging to his family, making Xiaolong think that Lin Yi had really escaped from Sky Class Island, so he wasn't afraid of Lin Yi at all. He used to think that Xiaolong was a cunning person, but now he realized that someone who could trust Xiaoming had to have a pretty high IQ as well. Let Kang Mingming come to me for revenge. Lin Yi didn't want to waste any more time with Xiaolong. He slapped Xiaolong's face after saying that. Xiaolong didn't even have time to scream before he was sent flying. Half of his face was swollen, and he spat out a mouthful of teeth. He looked exactly like Igratapovich. If it weren't for their different hair and skin color, they'd look like brothers. Coincidentally, Xiaolong landed in Xue Jianfeng's resting room. He was here to look for Xue Jianfeng, and when he saw the room number, he grabbed the door handle and opened it, screaming, "Master Xue, help! I'm Kang Guifeng's son, Kang Mingming's cousin. Someone's trying to kill me, you have to save me, Master Xue." Xue Jianfeng was waiting alone, bored. He didn't know how Lin Yi was going to deal with him, but when he heard Xiaolong's shout, he didn't think much and stood up. Who the hell dares to kill someone in front of me, Xue Jianfeng? Especially when it's my business partner. Do you want to die? Kang Xiaolong, don't worry, I'm here and I'll make sure you're safe. He didn't even think that the person dealing with Xiaolong would be Lin Yi. Otherwise, he would have found a turtle shell to hide in and become a ninja turtle for a while. Xiaolong was overjoyed. He dared to mess with Lin Yi because Kang Mingming's bragging had convinced him, and also because he'd just gotten in touch with the Sacred Alliance. He knew that this was the power that Kang Mingming controlled, and he wasn't afraid of Lin Yi at all. That was why he dared to mock Lin Yi without a care in the world. With Xue Jianfeng's strong stance, Xiaolong straightened his back again and turned to Lin Yi, who was slowly walking towards him. Lin Yi, don't be too cocky. I'll make sure you won't be able to walk out of this door today. Xue Jianfeng was walking out, wanting to see who hit Xiaolong when he heard Lin Yi's name. His whole body shrunk a few centimeters, completely different from the Xiaolong who had just straightened his back. Oh, Lin Yi? Xue Jianfeng was still thinking about how Lin Yi was going to deal with him when he heard that the person he was going to deal with was Lin Yi. He was scared out of his wits and quickly released his consciousness, wanting to see if it was someone with the same name. Unfortunately, this was Europe. There was no way something like that could happen. It really is Lin Yi? UF** King tricked me? Xue Jianfeng wanted to cry, but no tears came out. He wanted to cut Xiaolong into pieces. Lin Yi's calm voice came from the corridor. Xue Jianfeng, you're here to act cool again. This habit of pretending to be pretentious really needs to be corrected. Don't pretend to be pretentious all the time. Xue Jianfeng's whole body shook. He didn't wait for Lin Yi to finish speaking. He rushed to Xiaolong's side and slapped the other side of Xiaolong's face. The defenseless Xiaolong was sent flying again, crashing into the wall on the other side. Luckily, he didn't spit out any teeth this time, since he'd already lost all of them. Xiaolong didn't even have time to react before Xue Jianfeng's foot landed on his chest. His body that was halfway down the wall stopped in its tracks. Kang, who do you think you are? How dare you order me around? Are you kidding me? Do you think I'm someone you can order around? Do you believe that I won't teach you a lesson right now? I'll make sure you can't take care of yourself for the rest of your life. Xue Jianfeng was panicking. He was afraid that Lin Yi would turn against him, so he decided to deal with Xiaolong first. Xiaolong looked at Xue Jianfeng stunned. He stuttered, Master Xue, you didn't you say you're going to protect me? Chapter 57:10. Lin Yi smiled faintly. Xue Jianfeng, are you ignoring me? Xue Jianfeng quickly turned around and smiled. Senior Lin? Why are you here? What a coincidence, what did you say? I'm ignoring you? How is that possible? You're too much of a joker. I'm teaching my little brother a lesson and my eyesight isn't good. I didn't notice you were here. I'm sorry, please forgive me. It's fine if your eyesight isn't good, but why are your ears so bad too? Didn't you hear what I said just now? Lin Yi looked at Xue Jianfeng with a half smile, waiting to see how the guy would continue. Haha, you might not believe it, but my ears are ringing with all sorts of teachings from you, Senior Lin. If you were to speak to me, I wouldn't be able to tell if it was an illusion or not. Xue Jianfeng's shamelessness had reached the pinnacle. He could come up with this bullshit without even blushing or gasping for breath. Lin Yi was completely convinced. He wanted to see where this guy's bottom line was, but he was destined to be disappointed. This guy had no bottom line at all. Xiaolong was completely dumbfounded. His swollen face was like a pig's head as he laid on the ground. He couldn't understand how Lin Yi, the guy Kang Ming said would run away the moment he saw him, could be so powerful that even Master Xue was fawning over him. Lin Yi looked at Xiaolong coldly and waved his hand. Scram. Tell Kang Ming that I'm waiting to see him. Xiaolong felt as if he'd been pardoned. He didn't dare say anything else as he quickly got up and ran. Although his face was a little pitiful, his body didn't suffer any serious injuries. Lin Yi and Xue Jianfeng had controlled their strength, and their attacks were well controlled. They only wanted to embarrass him a little. Xue Jianfeng looked at Xiaolong's back with envy. How great would it be if he could run with Xiaolong? Lin Yi stepped into the resting room, and Xue Jianfeng took one last look at Xiaolong disappearing around the corner before withdrawing his envious gaze and following Lin Yi. Senior Lin, do you have any other instructions? After Xue Jianfeng came in, he tactfully closed the door and stood respectfully at the side. Lin Yi didn't beat around the bush, getting straight to the point. Who's in charge of the common world right now? Where is the headquarters? Xue Jianfeng was slightly startled. He guessed that this was a sign that Lin Yi was going to make a move against the center. However, he had no way of completely betraying the center to Lin Yi. After all, the center's poison was still in his body. If the center was finished, then he, Xue Jianfeng, would be finished as well. This I really don't know. Senior Lin, think about it. How long has it been since I left the primordial underworld? How could he have figured out all these things? Xue Jianfeng said with a troubled expression. What he said did make some sense. Lin Yi frowned slightly and said, You said that the person you were going to report to was Dr. Glasses? Who was this person? Where is your base of operations in Milva? Xue Jianfeng thought that Lin Yi already knew all of this and he couldn't hide it even if he wanted to, so he answered straightforwardly, Dr. Glasses is in charge of the center's research. As for his identity, he's probably the person in charge of the research, right? I'm not too sure myself. He's probably one of the higher-ups in the center, but he's definitely not the most important one. This wasn't a lie, but Xue Jianfeng was implying that Lin Yi had no use in capturing that Dr. Glasses. He wasn't the key person in the center. As for Milva's base, it doesn't have a fixed location. It often changes locations every day or two, so if Senior Lin wants to find the base here, there's no point in doing so. There's nothing of value here. Xue Jianfeng didn't know if Lin Yi would believe him if he said this, so he could only sneak glances at Lin Yi as he spoke, ready to change his words at any time. Lin Yi didn't doubt Xue Jianfeng's words. Although Milva wasn't bad, the headquarters of the center was indeed a little lacking. Moreover, it was normal for the center's headquarters to change locations frequently after knowing that he was here. After all, the incident at K Luo Mountain had directly chased the center out of the ancient underworld. Senior Lin, why don't you let me be your spy? If I discover that the leader of the center has appeared, I'll inform you immediately. What do you think? Xue Jianfeng suddenly said. Of course, these weren't his sincere words, but if he could deceive Lin Yi and make Lin Yi let him go, it would be a very good thing. Lin Yi was slightly startled. Regardless of whether Xue Jianfeng was sincere or not, this was a good suggestion. After all, Lin Yi didn't intend to kill Xue Jianfeng right now. Before he completely captured the leader of the center, he absolutely couldn't let the center have any suspicions. Otherwise, it would be even more difficult to find clues about the center. Your suggestion is not bad. If you are sincere in helping me, I won't mistreat you. Lin Yi nodded noncommittally and said indifferently to Xue Jianfeng. Hearing Lin Yi's words, Xue Jianfeng was instantly overjoyed. He had only said it casually, but he didn't expect Lin Yi to really show signs of agreeing. It seemed that this young master was indeed a genius. Senior Lin, please rest assured. I definitely want to help you sincerely. As soon as the leader of the center appears, I'll definitely inform you immediately. Moreover, if Dr. Glasses has any research progress, I can also inform you at any time so that you can be prepared. Xue Jianfeng just wanted to leave Lin Yi as soon as possible. Therefore he kept giving empty promises one after another. Anyway, once he escaped, he wouldn't be able to care about Lin Yi anymore. If you put it this way, I'm really quite interested. If you're making such a promise just to get rid of me, then the next time I see you, it will be the day of your death," said Lin Yi with a faint smile. Although he originally intended to let Xue Jianfeng go, there was no harm in saying a few more words of this kind of casual threat. Xue Jianfeng's body trembled slightly. He quickly put on a smile and said, "How could I? I've admired Senior Lin for a long time. It's my fortune to be able to forsake the darkness for the light. Please rest assured I'll take care of this matter. After saying that, Shui Jianfeng looked at Lin Yi cautiously. His eyes were filled with, "Can I go?" Lin Yi smiled faintly and said, "If you go back like this, you might be suspected. I'd better leave a mark on you." Shui Jianfeng was still thinking about leaving a mark when he immediately felt a pain in his left arm. Then he heard a crisp crack. His arm was actually broken by Lin Yi. Chapter 57:11. He was cursing Lin Yi in his heart, but he still maintained the necessary respect on the surface. He didn't want to put his other arm on the line. "I'll leave a mark on you. You have a great recovery pill on you, right?" Lin Yi smiled faintly and said without a care. Although he couldn't kill Shui Jianfeng, he could still make him suffer a little. Shui Jianfeng endured the pain and quickly took out a great recovery pill, wanting to swallow it, but it was snatched away by Lin Yi. "Senior Lin, weren't you the one who told me to eat the great recovery pill?" Shui Jianfeng felt so wrong that he wanted to cry. A broken arm wasn't a big injury. Even without the great recovery pill, it could be healed after a period of treatment with qi. It was just that the pain was a little annoying. Lin Yi put away Shui Jianfeng's great recovery pill and said, "No, I wanted you to take out the great recovery pill for me. If you ate it now, what's the point of this injury? Alright, hurry up and go back. Let Dr. Glasses treat you." These words were very reasonable. Shui Jianfeng was speechless and could only say goodbye to Lin Yi with a sullen face. He could finally escape from Lin Yi's clutches. Shui Jianfeng swore that he wouldn't go near any place where Lin Yi was, unless there was a day when his strength could completely overwhelm Lin Yi. After leaving the exhibition venue, Shui Jianfeng quickly rushed to the central stronghold. He wasn't afraid that Lin Yi would use his divine sense to monitor him, because if Lin Yi wanted to follow him, he could move his primordial spirit without being discovered. In the stronghold, the Glasses doctor was studying the Dr. Kang's golden creation medicines formula that Shui Jianfeng sent back. When he saw Shui Jianfeng returning injured, he said indifferently, "Injured? Did you run into Lin Yi again?" Shui Jianfeng cursed, "Isn't it that bastard Lin Yi? Why do I run into him every time? This time, I managed to escape with great difficulty. Luckily, I only lost an arm. Do you have any more great recovery pills? I've run out of them." Qin Dongqing snickered in his heart, but he had some regrets. If he went alone this time, he might be able to reach an agreement with Lin Yi. There weren't many opportunities to meet Lin Yi alone. Qin Dongqing took out a great returning pill and handed it to Shui Jianfeng, saying, "Eat mine first. Fortunately, it's just a fracture. It will heal very quickly." The bespectacled doctor said without raising his head, "Don't worry. When I come up with a new potion, I'll give it to you to use. At that time, you don't have to worry about such minor injuries at all. Basically, you'll be able to recover immediately. You don't have to be afraid of getting injured anymore." "So magical? Then I'll be waiting to see." Shui Jianfeng was immediately overjoyed. However, a thought suddenly flashed through his mind. Should I tell Lin Yi about this? Go. Was he crazy? With this potion, he wouldn't have to be afraid of Lin Yi in the future. Shui Jianfeng quickly patted his forehead and drove the crazy thoughts out of his mind. What he said to Lin Yi just now was just a temporary measure. He mustn't take it seriously. What he didn't know was that Qin Dongqing was also hesitating on the side. Should he inform Lin Yi about this news or use it as a bargaining chip with Lin Yi? In addition to these two people, Big Brother Dafeng also wanted to inform Lin Yi about the situation here. Unfortunately, he didn't have the opportunity to go out alone to contact Lin Yi. He could only worry on the side. At the same time, Igrat Apovich, who was driven away by Lin Yi, also returned to his home. His family was indeed an ancient aristocratic family in Europe, but it wasn't as powerful as he said. On the other hand, Igrat Apovich's mother's family, which was his maternal grandfather's family, was the largest mafia family in the area. Seeing that her son had been beaten into a pig's head, Igrat Apovich's mother was furious. After asking for the reason, the former underworld princess immediately called her brother. "Edmund, my dear brother, your nephew was bullied. As an uncle, shouldn't you do something?" After the phone was connected, Igrat Apovich's mother spoke very elegantly. She was no longer angry when she saw her son being beaten up. Edmund, who was on the other end of the phone, laughed and said, "Josephine, my dear sister, do you only remember to call your brother when something happens? Shouldn't you contact your family more often if you have nothing to do?" "Edmund, I admit that what you said is right, but can we talk about your poor nephew first?" Josephine didn't seem dissatisfied and continued to speak unhurriedly. On the other side, Edmund shrugged and poured himself a glass of red wine, then said, Alright, as an uncle who loves the younger generation, of course I will stand up for our cute little Igratapovich. Tell me what happened. Josephine smiled in satisfaction and looked at the pitiful Igratapovich, then continued, it's like this. Isn't Milva holding a medical exhibition? There's a medical group from the east, I think they're called Miracle Dr. Guan or something. Their people beat up Igratapovich. Edmund, you didn't see it, but your nephew's teeth were all knocked out. His entire face is swollen. It's so hateful. Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group? Edmund was startled. It sounded familiar. Wait, I think I've heard of this name before. Let me think. Right, one of their products is called Golden Creation, right? It's very effective and you can't even buy it in Europe. Everything has to be smuggled over. Are they going to enter Europe? This is a good opportunity. My dear Edmund, aren't you focusing on the wrong place? Josephine frowned and expressed her dissatisfaction. That's right, their medicine is really amazing. 5 bodyguards had their limbs broken by them, but after using their medicine, their injuries healed very quickly. This is really surprising, but does this have anything to do with Igratapovich? Oh yes, my dear Josephine. I have to admit that you're right. Let's talk about how to stand up for Igratapovich, then tell me what's going on with those 5 bodyguards. Edmund was obviously more concerned about the amazing effects of the medicine. As a mafia family, to have such a miraculous medicine was an invincible trump card. Chapter 57:12. As the princess of the underworld, she was used to being shot to death. It was also the simplest and most direct way to take revenge. However, Edmund obviously didn't think so. When he heard the suggestion, he immediately objected. Oh no, my dear sister, I understand how you feel, but this isn't in our family's interest at all. You know, the police have been keeping a close eye on us recently. If there's a shooting, especially if it's an important person from abroad, if it's escalated to a diplomatic level, our family will be in a very passive position. Josephine immediately fell silent. She was originally from that family, so of course she knew that Edmund's words were not false. However, it was impossible for her to just swallow this insult. Igratapovich, who had been listening on the side, came over and said with difficulty, Uncle Edmund, I think you're right. Instead of killing them, why don't we control their channels and make them earn money for us? We can also threaten them and make them pay a higher price. Although Igratapovich didn't say it very clearly, Edmund was already thinking about this, so he immediately understood what he meant. Little Igra, you've really grown up. This is a very good idea. You can talk about it in detail and also tell us about the 5 bodyguards. Seeing that the person involved, Igratapovich, had the same thoughts as him, Edmonton was in a good mood. If they could become the product distributor for Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Company, they could foresee a huge amount of money flowing into their pockets. Igratapovich agreed and first told him that the 5 bodyguards' hands and feet were broken, and then they took the other party's medicine. In less than 10 minutes they could barely walk and so on. Edmund, who was on the other side, took a deep breath. He had already overestimated the effectiveness of the medicine, but he didn't expect it to be even more shocking than he expected. It was almost like magic. This also strengthened Edmund's determination to become the agent of the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group. Although his family wasn't involved in the medical industry, they couldn't let go of the opportunity to earn money. Uncle Edmund, are you going to send someone to discuss cooperation now? If that's the case, I think you can get your men to lower the price. This way we can guarantee our profits and teach them a lesson. I heard that the Sacred Alliance had talked to them before, but nothing was settled in the end. I guess the relationship between the two sides isn't that good. We can provide them with the channels they want the most, and lower the price is a must. Igratapovich laughed sinisterly. He accidentally pulled the wound on his face and immediately grimaced in pain. What you said makes sense. Do you have any other suggestions? Edmund had never thought much of his nephew, thinking that he was just a good-for-nothing. Although he doted on him for the sake of his sister, he had never thought that he would have such thoughts. Igratapovich covered his mouth with his hand and continued carefully, It's like this. I think we can get their agent rights at a very low price, but don't get into a fight with them. As I said just now, these mysterious Easterners have amazing combat power. We don't need to fight them head-on. We just need to tell them our advantages. If they don't agree to our request, then there will be no place for them in Europe. Igratapovich could see that although Linny was powerful, he obviously didn't dare to go too far here. Otherwise he wouldn't have stopped when he saw the security. So, using Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group as a breakthrough point should be able to threaten Lin Yi's group. At that time, it wouldn't be difficult to make Su Shirhan obediently climb onto young Master Igratopovich's bed. Igratopovich smiled sinisterly and didn't voice out his dirty thoughts. Instead, he hung up the phone with Edmund. Edmund had already arranged for his men to take care of this matter, so all he had to do now was wait at home. Maybe he should get a better set of dentures first. At this time, the crowd in front of Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group's booth had finally dispersed. However, the popularity brought by Su Shirhan didn't disappear. There were still many people who came to ask some questions. It made the staff arranged by Kang Xiaobo very busy. If it was before the Sacred Alliance, Miracle Dr. Guan's brand would attract a lot of cooperation. However, with the appearance of the Sacred Alliance, Europe's demand for Miracle Dr. Guan's products had decreased a lot. After all, although the Sacred Alliance's products weren't as good as Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group's products, they were cheaper. Before, Miracle Dr. Guan's products were all smuggled in. The price was enough to scare away most people. Because of this, among the people who asked, most of them wanted to buy a batch of products from Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group and sell them in Europe. They wanted to see the effect before deciding on other things. There weren't many who wanted to be the agent. Kang Xiaobo and Lai Changyi didn't care. It didn't matter if they didn't have an agent. As long as they could sell to Europe, it was fine. They believed that with the quality of their company's products, they would be able to cause a panic in Europe sooner or later. At this time, 3 white men in black suits walked over arrogantly. The one in front was holding a briefcase. Who is the person in charge of Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group here? The guy with the briefcase glanced at the people at the booth and asked arrogantly. Kang Xiaobo and Lai Changyi looked at each other. They both felt that the other party didn't come with good intentions. However, they weren't afraid of trouble. Lai Changyi stood up and said, "I'm the co-director of Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group, Lai Changyi. What can I do for you?" "So you're a co-director. So you're the one who can make decisions? Very good." The guy who spoke nodded slightly and pointed at the seat behind him with his chin. "Let's sit down and talk. We want the European agent rights of your Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group." Chapter 57:13. After sitting down, the man with the briefcase said, "I'm here to negotiate with you on behalf of the Fleischer family. You can call me Abel. Now tell me, what's the price of the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group's exclusive agency in Europe?" Kang Xiaobo raised his eyebrows. He had heard of the Fleischer family. Lan Fun was in charge of collecting information. As her husband, of course, he would pay more attention to it. This family was the biggest mafia family around Milva. They were famous throughout Europe. If there was a ranking, they would be at least in the top 5 of the European mafia. Truth be told, Xiaobo didn't really like working with a house like this. They had too much of a bad reputation, and the Fleischer family's name meant butcher. It had been hundreds of years since they'd last changed their ways of doing things. Lai Changyi didn't care. Business was business. No matter who the partner was, it was fine as long as they could enter the European market. If the other party was strong, it would be good for the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group. "Mr. Abel, if you're talking about the exclusive agency rights in Europe, then I think an agency fee of 10 million euros per year is quite cheap. As for the price of goods, we can also give you some discounts. We'll ship the goods at a 5% discount of our domestic retail price. Of course, you'll be responsible for all the shipping and customs duties. What do you think?" Lai Changyi calculated in his mind and gave a relatively favorable price. One had to know that the price of golden creation that was smuggled from China to Europe was at least 5 to 10 times the domestic retail price. Some places were even more expensive. The price that Lai Changyi gave was definitely a good price. Although Kang Xiaobo didn't really like the Fleischer family, he didn't have any objection since Lai Changyi was negotiating. Abel heard the price and shook his head. No. This price is still too high. You have to know that your products have no foundation in Europe, and you don't have any channels. We, the Fleischer family, will provide all the sales channels. So this price of 5% is unacceptable. I think that 40% of the domestic retail price should be enough." Lai Changyi suddenly frowned. The 40% discount of the domestic retail price did not mean that there was no profit, but the products exported to Europe could obviously earn double or even 2 or 3 times the profit. There was no reason to continue to reduce the price. After thinking for a while, Lai Changyi calmly said, "I'm sorry, I don't think we can accept this price. If you really want to cooperate sincerely, we'll give you a 10% discount on the domestic retail price, plus an agency fee of 20 million euros per year. How about that? 20% off, 50 million euros for the agency fee. Abel immediately counteroffered, which was within Lai Chang's acceptable range. Anyway, they only needed to open up the market in the first year. It didn't matter if they earned less. When the market opened up, they could sign a new contract. This time the contract would not be more than 2 years. After calculating in his heart, Lai Chang'e immediately smiled and said, "Deal. I hope we can have a pleasant cooperation." Abel didn't reach out to shake Lai Chang'e's hand. Instead, he took out a contract from his briefcase and stuffed it into Lai Chang'e's hand. This made Lai Chang'e a little embarrassed. There were several similar contracts inside. They were probably prepared according to different negotiation terms. Mr. Abel is really swift and decisive. He even prepared the contract. Lai Chang'e laughed and withdrew his hand holding the contract. In his heart he thought that these Europeans were rude. We who came from the land of etiquette don't stoop to their level. Just as he was thinking about this, Lai Chang'e flipped open the contract. His eyes suddenly froze. Then Mr. Lai, who came from the land of etiquette, directly threw the contract in his hand at Abel's annoying and arrogant face. "Get out. You're here to tease me, aren't you?" Lai Chang'e's fat face that always had a smile seemed to be covered by frost. A terrifying aura rose from his body. Kang Xiaobo looked at Lai Chang'e strangely. This guy had always been a nice guy. When he first met Lin Yi, he would hug Lin Yi's leg and cry. What kind of contract could make Fatty Lai so angry? Abel was unmoved this time. He rearranged the contract and put it on the table. "Mr. Lai, don't forget that this is Europe. It's our Fleischer family's territory. These terms are quite favorable for you. Besides, they were your own terms. Are you going back on your word now?" "I told you to get out." Lai Chang'e narrowed his eyes. His eyes were flashing with anger. Kang Xiaobo reached out to take a look at the contract. His face turned green. The supply price was correct. It was 20% off the domestic retail price. However, the agent fee of 50 million euros wasn't paid by the Fleischer family to the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group. It was paid by the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group to the Fleischer family. It wasn't that there wasn't such a way to pay agent fees, but basically, it was for those products that had no market at all. They had to beg others to sell them through a channel. In this way, most of the profits from the sales would go to the product company. Would the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group's products have no market? If the supply couldn't meet the demand by smuggling 5 to 10 times the price, it showed the profits. If the Fleischer family asked for such an agent fee, then there wouldn't be any supply price because all the profits from the sales of the products would go to the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group. Now, these guys wanted the agent fee for the channel and the profits from the sales of the products. What a joke. This kind of cooperation was equivalent to letting Lai Chang'e and the others pay for the Fleischer family. Instead of that, wouldn't it be better to sell it in the country? As the #1 follower of Lin Yi young thug, Kang Xiaobo's temper was much worse than Lai Chang'e's. In addition, he didn't have a good impression of the Fleischer family. After looking at the contract, he slapped it on Abel's face without saying anything. This time it wasn't a light throw from Lai Chang'e. It was a solid slap on Abel's face. His face was slapped to the side. Although it didn't contain any qi, it was more powerful than an ordinary adult's slap. Chapter 57:14. After the 2 slaps, Kang Xiaobo's anger subsided a little. He clasped his hands together and shattered the contract into pieces. Then he pushed Abel and the 2 people beside him out without any explanation. Abel, who had just regained his senses after being slapped twice, shouted furiously, "How dare you do this to me? Damn Easterners. Do you know that if you offend us, no one in Europe will dare to work with you? Just wait to get out of Europe with your tails between your legs." Lin Yi suddenly appeared beside Abel, grabbed him by the back of his collar and threw him out. Then he threw the other 2 out as well. Then he said coldly, "You can leave now. I want to see if there's really no one willing to work with us without you." After that, he turned around and smiled at Kang Xiaobo. "Xiaobo, well done. There's no need to be polite to these *cheese. That being said, the people who came to ask questions earlier turned around and left when they saw this scene. It was obvious that they knew a lot about the Fleischer family. Abel crawled up from 10 meters away yelling at Lin Yi. "Who the hell are you? How dare you interfere with our Fleischer family's business?" Kang Xiaobo stepped forward and said, "This is our boss. He has the final say in everything in Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company." "Good. Very good. You will regret this." Abel was silent for a while, then he turned around and walked towards Dr. Kang's booth while cursing. At the same time he turned around and said to Lin Yi, You're not the only one here with golden creation. Although the effect of Dr. Kang's medicine is slightly weaker than yours, it won't be by much. I'll go look for them. This was obviously a sign of weakness. No one knew if it was Edmund's order or if he was really afraid. But Dr. Kang's cooperation was indeed within the plan. Edmund Fleischer wanted to monopolize the golden creation in the East. It wasn't enough to just get Miracle Dr. Guan's dealership. If he could get Dr. Kang's dealership as well, then he'd be able to make huge profits with a small investment. He'd be able to focus on whichever one was more profitable, and there wouldn't be any competition. Miracle Dr. Guan's booth, which had been filled with people before, became deserted once more after Abel left. No one would come to seek cooperation after knowing that Miracle Dr. Guan had offended the Fleischer family. Kang Xiaobo smiled bitterly. Boss, it seems that this trip is in vain. But it doesn't matter. Anyway, the increased production capacity can be absorbed in China. If it doesn't work, we can sell it to America. Such a small matter made you give up on your plan to enter Europe? Then you have no ambition. Lin Yi patted Kang Xiaobo's shoulder with a smile. He didn't seem to mind at all. Lai Changyi also came over with a smile. Boss is right. We'll cross the bridge when we get there. Don't worry. Alright boss, why did you come alone? Oh, I came back to take a look. They're still eating. Why don't you two go and eat as well? Let them watch over here, Lin Yi said casually. He also noticed Abel and the others coming over. It seemed like they didn't come with good intentions, so he came over to take a look. It's fine. You go eat, boss. Old Lai and I will wait here. Maybe someone will come and ask about it. Kang Xiaobo said a little dispiritedly. He still had some ideas about entering Europe, so he wanted to see if there were more opportunities. Lin Yi sighed softly in his heart. Originally, he didn't want to continue to intervene in the affairs of the secular world, but now it seemed that he still had to use his previous relationships. It was not impossible to destroy the Fleischer family by force, but unless this method could wipe out the entire population of Europe, it was bound to cause a backlash in the future. At that time, Lin Yi would return to Heaven Stage Island, and Kang Xiaobo and the others would become the people who would bear the brunt of the anger. He took out his phone and dialed the familiar number. After it was connected, Lin Yi opened his mouth and wanted to say, "Princess, help me check." But he immediately realized that Ran Ran had fallen into a deep sleep. The intelligence contact of the Black Butterfly organization had probably been changed a long time ago. Sure enough, there was a pleasant but unfamiliar female voice on the other side. She said softly to Lin Yi, "Hello." Lin Yi replied, "I'm fine." Then the person on the other side said, "The Heavenly King covers the Earth Tiger." Lin Yi whispered, "The Black Widow is dead." To be honest, Lin Yi didn't understand how his master came up with such a contact code back then, and it hadn't changed for so many years. When Ran Ran was still around, Lin Yi didn't need to say it because Ran Ran knew Lin Yi's number and voice. As long as it was Lin Yi calling, she would know immediately. "May I ask for your code name?" The soft female voice continued to explain the process. Lin Yi withdrew his thoughts and said faintly, "Eagle, killer code Z0001. Hello Eagle. Is there anything I can help you with?" The girl's tone was noticeably more respectful after Lin Yi introduced himself. "Please help me check the contact information of a person with the surname Buffon in my previous mission. I forgot his name, but I only know that he is the young master of the Buffon family in Europe." Lin Yi only remembered that there was such a person, and he should be able to help Kang Xiaobo and the others. "Okay, please wait a moment." The female voice said softly, and then continued after only 2 or 3 seconds. "I found it. I have sent it to your mobile phone. Is there anything else I can help you with?" "No, thank you." Lin Yi thanked her and hung up the phone directly. Then he opened the text message. Sure enough, he had received a new message. It was the contact number of the young master of the Buffon family. As long as he could contact him, the threat of the Fleischer family could be resolved. Kerman Buffon, this was the person Lin Yi was looking for. In a mission that year, Lin Yi saved Kerman's life. Now that he was looking for him to do something, he wouldn't refuse. The phone rang for a long time before it was connected. Then there was deafening music and noise from the other end. It seemed that this guy was out at a bar. "Hello, who is it? Say something. Don't disturb me from drinking." A young man's voice shouted impatiently. It seemed that he was a little unhappy about being disturbed. Lin Yi smiled slightly and said plainly, "Kerman Buffon? I am Eagle." The other side seemed to be stunned for a moment, and then there was an excited scream, "Eagle? Brother Eagle? Quiet. You guys keep quiet." Chapter 57:15. Lenny smirked. It seemed like Kerman did not forget that he saved his life. Also, the Buffon family seemed to be quite powerful. Kerman took a few deep breaths. Then he asked nervously and excitedly, "Brother Ing, is that really you?" "It's me. I haven't seen you for a long time. How are you?" Lenny casually greeted him. After all, they had not contacted each other for many years. "Of course I'm fine. Damn it, Brother Ing, where have you been all these years? Do you know how many times I've been looking for you? But your previous organization told me that you've already retired. They don't even have your contact information. I've sent people all over Asia to look for you. Unfortunately, there has been no news of you. You finally remembered to call me." Kerman spoke very quickly. Fortunately, Lin Yi's English hearing was not bad. Otherwise, he might not have been able to understand what he was saying. However, Kerman said that he had been looking for him. This surprised Linny. Back then he only saved him once. Later on, they established a certain level of friendship. But there was no need for Kerman to look for him for so many years, right? For example, Lin Yi himself did not even remember Kerman's name. If it wasn't for the detailed information in the text message, it would be awkward for him not to be able to remember Kerman's name. "Brother Ing, where are you now?" "Asia? Give me the specific coordinates. I'll fly over to meet you immediately." After Kerman spoke, he immediately asked for Lin Yi's location. It seemed like he had been looking for him for a long time. Lin Yi smiled and said, "I'm in Europe now. Milva, if it's convenient for you, you can come over and meet me. I have something to talk to you about." "Milva? I'm in the nearby town of Mendoza. It's very close to Milva. Brother Ing, wait for me. I'll come over immediately. Where do you want to meet me?" Kerman was overjoyed. His voice was filled with excitement. Lin Yi thought about it and said, "I'm staying at the Milva International Hotel. Why don't you come over there and call me when you're there?" "No problem. I'll be there in 30 minutes. Brother Ing, wait for me." Kerman immediately hung up. It seemed like he rushed out to drive. Lin Yi tilted his head. He didn't know why this guy wanted to see him so much. Perhaps it was because he admired him? After all, he was only a teenager when Lin Yi saved him, the age where he worshipped heroes. After seeing Lin Yi's skills, he made Lin Yi his idol. No matter what, Kelman's attitude was helpful to Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company. Lin Yi didn't think too much about it. He turned back to Xiaobo and Lai Chang'e. "Come, let's go back to the hotel. I found someone to represent us. There shouldn't be a problem with the European channels." Xiaobo stared blankly at Lin Yi. "Boss, you're so cool. You even know people in Europe." Lai Chang'e slapped the back of Kang Xiaobo's head. He laughed and said, "What are you talking about? Do you only know how awesome Boss is now?" Kang Xiaobo thought about it and agreed. However, he still had to take revenge for being hit by Lai Chang'e. Two joint directors were fighting without any warning. The atmosphere just now was gone. Lin Yi smiled and shook his head. He didn't care about the two. He walked out of the venue and called Sun Jingyi and the others. He told them that he was going back to the hotel and that they would go back together after Languza finished his meal. Kang Xiaobo and Lai Chang'e laughed as they followed behind Lin Yi. They didn't care about the booth. After what the Fleischer family did on the first day, they probably wouldn't have any intention to cooperate. A few workers were enough to deal with it. After the three of them returned to the hotel, they waited for Kerman at the bar. Kang Xiaobo asked Lin Yi how he knew Kerman. "Boss, didn't you transfer from the mountains to Songshan High School? Since when did you know the young master of a big family in Europe?" Kang Xiaobo poured a glass of red wine for Lin Yi and asked curiously. These lackeys didn't know much about Lin Yi's past, and when he was with Lin Dongfang, no one dared to disturb his and Aunt Qing's private world, so it was normal for him to ask about it now. "Ah, who said I'm going to Songshan High School? I'm actually going there to be a bodyguard." Lin Yi smiled as he reminisced about the time when he first came to Songshan. "I came here before when I was doing a mission, so it's normal to know people from Europe." "Boss, you're going to be a bodyguard? For who?" Kang Xiaobo paused and looked like he wanted to gossip. "Yeah, of course. You can't even guess that? It's a mission my old man gave me and it's a long story, so I'll keep it short." Lin Yi explained the whole story briefly, and the two felt as if they'd finally understood what was going on. "I see, that's why Boss doesn't look like a student. Speaking of which, Boss, why didn't you go after the two prettiest girls at home and went after sis-in-law Tang Yun instead?" Kang Xiaobo laughed as he wondered if Boss thought that rabbits don't eat the grass near their nest. Lin Yi looked strangely at Kang Xiaobo and said, "Didn't you tell me to go after Tang Yun?" Kang Xiaobo was dumbfounded. It seemed like it was true. He couldn't say anything and could only raise his glass to Lin Yi and Lai Chang'e. The three gently clinked their glasses. After Lai Chang'e took a sip of red wine, he said to Lin Yi with interest, "Boss, can you tell us about your glorious past? Otherwise, wouldn't it be shameful if we don't even know boss' glorious past?" Kang Xiaobo immediately nodded and said, "That's right boss, tell us about that Kerman Buffon first. How did you meet him? He seems to have some power here?" "Okay, since we have nothing to do anyway, let's just talk about it." Lin Yi usually wouldn't talk about his past. He was in a good mood today, so he told Kang Xiaobo and Lai Chang'e, "I was only 16 years old at that time. I came to Europe to carry out a mission and save the life of an 11 or 12-year-old boy. That was Kerman Buffon." Kang Xiaobo and Lai Chang'e listened attentively. After 10 seconds, they saw that Lin Yi didn't continue talking and they couldn't help but ask hesitantly, "Boss, then that's it," Lin Yi said matter-of-factly. Chapter 57:16. However, Lin Yi could go into detail about what happened after he arrived at Songshan, but Kang Xiaobo and Lai Chang'e both knew about it. Seeing how emotional Lin Yi was, they could only sigh along with him. Not long after, Kerman's call arrived. After knowing Lin Yi's exact location, Kerman only took 5 to 6 minutes to appear at the entrance of the bar. The young man from back then had grown a lot taller. He was wearing a simple white t-shirt and jeans with a beige casual suit. Coupled with his slightly curly short blonde hair, one would think of the word low-key luxury at first glance. "Kerman, over here." Lin Yi waved at the door and stood up with Kang Xiaobo. This was out of respect for a friend, and it had nothing to do with Kerman's identity. Kerman looked towards the direction of Lin Yi's voice, and his face was instantly filled with joy. He stretched his long legs and rushed over, not even bothering to greet the young man behind him. "Brother Ing, I finally found you." Kerman ignored Lin Yi's outstretched hand and rushed up to give Lin Yi a big hug. Then he smiled and nodded at Kang Xiaobo and Lai Chang'e. He hadn't introduced Lin Yi officially, but since he was one of Lin Yi's people, it was only natural for him to express his goodwill. Lin Yi waited for the person who came with Kerman to come over before gesturing for everyone to sit down. Kang Xiaobo and Lai Chang'e introduced themselves, saying that they were both Lin Yi's underlings, instantly making Kerman feel a lot closer. "Brother Ing, this is Lyman Gerard, my friend. His family is related to mine, so Lyman often comes out with me to play." After Kang Xiaobo and Lai Chang'e introduced themselves, Kerman also introduced the young man who came with him. "Greetings, big brothers. I am Lyman Gerard. If you have any trivial matters in Europe, you can look for me to make arrangements. If there are any major matters, I will still need Brother Kerman's help," Lyman said with a brilliant smile. This young man easily gave people a good impression. He did not have the aura of a playboy. Perhaps it was because of Lyman's respect for Lin Yi and the others? From the conversation between the two, Lin Yi could easily determine that Lyman should be Zuckerman's younger brother, or in other words, the Gerard family itself was the younger brother of the Buffon family, so Lyman was more or less a follower, following Zuckerman everywhere to play. After the new glasses were delivered, Lyman took the initiative to take the bottle and poured wine for Kelman. He also asked Lin Yi and the others if they needed any more wine before pouring it for himself. "Brother Ing, where have you been all these years? Why couldn't I find you?" After raising his glass and toasting Lin Yi, Kerman couldn't wait to ask. Lin Yi smiled faintly, "It's me, I'm in school." Kang Xiaobo and Lai Chang'e couldn't help but laugh. Their boss just said that he wasn't going to school but to be a bodyguard, and now he said that he was going to school. But this wasn't wrong. Lin Yi did stay in school for a long time. Of course, it was only in name. In reality, he skipped classes every 2 to 3 days. School? Kerman paused, not expecting an answer like this. No wonder the men he sent out couldn't find Lin Yi at all. He'd never asked his men to pay attention to any of the students in the school. "You said that you've been looking for me for a long time, what's the matter?" Lin Yi wasn't in a hurry to talk about Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company. He asked Kelman first. Kelman shook his head, trying to get rid of the fact that Lin Yi was going to school. He put on a look of admiration. "It's like this, Brother Ing, I've always wanted to be your disciple. I was young back then, so I didn't think about it. I only regretted it after you went back. I've been looking for you for a few years now and I finally found you. Today you must take me as your disciple and teach me martial arts." Lin Yi was speechless. This was really a hero complex. For the sake of learning martial arts, this guy had been looking for someone all over the world for a few years. This guy's heart was quite firm. Lyman followed, "Brother Ing, if it's possible, please take me as your disciple. I'm the same as Brother Kelman, I admire your martial arts." "Don't worry, Lyman. If Brother Ing takes me as his disciple, I'll definitely take you as my disciple. After we finish learning, we'll be able to sweep across Europe. Kelman patted his follower's shoulder as if Linny had already agreed to take them as his disciples. But Linny didn't say anything. How did it become a certainty? Kang Xiaobo and Lai Changyi couldn't stop laughing. They didn't expect to encounter such a fun thing with their boss. It wasn't a wasted trip. Linny looked at the two shoulders and smirked. He said to Kelman, "You guys don't have any foundation right now. You should learn from Kang Xiaobo and Lai Changyi first. I taught them. You guys will be in contact with each other in the future, so it'll be convenient for them to teach you." Kang Xiaobo and Lai Changyi were dumbfounded. Why were they involved? They were the co-directors of the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group. They didn't have time to play around with these two kids. In fact, the two of them were only a few years older than Kerman, but from their point of view, Kerman and Kerman could only be considered as children who were still wet behind the ears. Kelman and Layman looked at Kang Xiaobo and Lai Changyi with distrust. Especially Lai Changyi. He was at the foundational stage, but he still looked like a fatty. He didn't look like a master at all. Kang Xiaobo and Lai Changyi weren't happy. Kelman and Layman weren't happy either. Linny smiled and pointed at the alloy table in front of him. He said to Kang Xiaobo and Lai Changyi, "The corner of this table is a bit sharp. It'll hurt easily. Cut it off with your hands and make it smoother." He wanted them to show off their skills to intimidate these two foreigners. Actually, what Linny said was child's play to Kang Xiaobo and Kelman. It was effortless. Since their boss ordered them, they could only shake their heads and smile. Both of them stretched out a finger and gently drew an arc on the corner of the table. Immediately, a smooth and thin line was cut out of the alloy table by their jinchi. Both of them casually pinched the small corner of the table and took it off. Kelman and Lehman's mouths were wide open. They couldn't believe what they saw. Is this magic? Brother Ing, you brought two magicians, right? Chapter 57:17. Kang Xiaobo looked at him like he was looking at a country bumpkin and said proudly, "Come Kerman, move aside. This arc isn't smooth enough, let me fix it." After Kerman moved aside, Kang Xiaobo wiped the corner with his hand, and a layer of fine metal powder was scattered on the ground. Kerman looked at the corner again and the shape had indeed changed. Only then did he believe that what he saw was real. At that moment, the two European youths looked at Kang Xiaobo and Lai Changyi with shining eyes. Their shocked expressions made the two of them feel that it wasn't bad to have two disciples like them. Linny smiled, "All right, this matter is settled. Now let's talk business." Kerman wiped the saliva from the corner of his mouth and sat up straight. "Big Brother Ing, if you need anything just let me know. I'll do my best to help you." "That's not necessary. If you're troubled, you don't have to force yourself," Linny said with a smile before getting back to the main topic. "Kerman, I wanted to ask, does your family have a medical business?" "Haha, so Big Brother Ing wants to ask about business. Then there's no problem, I'll definitely be able to help. My family does all kinds of business. Just leave it to me, Big Brother Ing." Kerman smiled and said confidently. "All kinds of business? Is it a shopping mall?" Kang Xiaobo interrupted with a smile. He didn't think that Kerman would turn around and nod at him. "We do have shopping malls, but there's only about 30 of them in the whole of Europe. We need to continue expanding." Kang Xiaobo's eyes lit up. It seemed like the Buffon family was really strong. From what Kerman said, shopping malls were one of the less important businesses, but these channels were very helpful to the sales of the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group's products. Linny nodded, "That's good. Have you heard of the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group? Miracle Dr. Guan wants to sell his products in Europe, and he needs an agent." Before Lin Yi could finish, Kerman said excitedly, "Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Corporation, the one with the gold sore medicine, right?" "I know. When I sent people to find Brother Ing, I heard about Miracle Dr. Guan's golden sore medicine. My men even smuggled some over and the effects were amazing." "Brother Ing, are you representing Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company? If that's the case, you must give us the dealership." Lin Yi and the other two were slightly stunned. They didn't expect Kerman to know about their products. However, his explanation was acceptable. Anyone who stayed in the country and came into contact with the gold sore medicine would have a deep impression of this product. Since Kerman knew about it and had the intention, it was easy to negotiate. Kang Xiaobo and Lai Changyi reintroduced themselves as the co-director of Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company. Kang Xiaobo immediately decided to cooperate with them. Although Kerman was young, he was the leader of the new generation in the Buffon family who had a lot of power. he could take the dealership on his own. Out of respect for Lin Yi and the fact that he was about to learn martial arts from Kang Xiaobo, Kerman generously gave them the greatest sincerity he could. The dealership fee to Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company every year was 100 million euros, and the supply price was the retail price in the country. This condition was much better than what he just gave to the Fleischer family. The dealership fee was a few times higher, not to mention the supply price. Furthermore, Kerman wasn't just giving away money for free. Cooperation was a win-win situation. His subordinates were in the business of smuggling godly Dr. Guanguan's golden sore medicine, and they knew how terrifying the profits were. As long as they could get the exclusive agency rights, a mere 100 million was nothing. If they had a sufficient supply, they could easily earn 700 to 800 million euros a year. Both parties were very sincere, and they quickly finished discussing the details. They agreed to sign the contract tomorrow, and Kuman would hold a press conference to spread the news. After all, Miracle Dr. Guan's golden sore medicine had always been a smuggled product, but it had a good reputation. If they used this opportunity to spread the news, it would definitely be an instant hit. After discussing the business, Kerman, who looked like an elite in the business world, immediately turned into a young man who dreamed of martial arts. He pestered Lin Yi and the other two and started asking all sorts of questions. In the end, the two were drunk and sent to the hotel room. Lin Yi and the other two finally got away. It was almost 1:30 in the morning. Sun Jingyi and the others had already returned to rest. The three went back to their rooms to rest. The next afternoon, House Buffon arranged a press conference at Miracle Dr. Guan's booth to prepare for the signing of the contract with the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group. All of this was handled by House Buffon, and Lin Yi didn't have to worry about it. Kerman, on the other hand, only woke up at noon, and after washing up, he came to the stadium in high spirits. It wasn't time yet. The press conference hadn't been set up yet, but Abel got the news from somewhere. He knew that someone was going to sign a contract with the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group, so he rushed over with his men. Seeing that Kang Xiaobo and Lai Changyi were there, but Lin Yi wasn't there, Abel waved his hand and ordered his men to spread out. They surrounded Miracle Dr. Guan's booth, preventing anyone from entering the area. Kang Xiaobo's face darkened when he saw this. Abel, what's the meaning of this? Are you causing trouble? Haha, which eye of yours saw me causing trouble? I'm maintaining order. I'm helping you. Shouldn't you be thanking us? Abel was quite shameless. He lied through his teeth. Thank you, but we don't need it. Please leave. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. Kang Xiaobo laughed coldly. Abel was stunned. Kang Xiaobo's actions last night were still fresh in his memory. But Igratapovich said that these people followed the rules. At least they didn't dare to act recklessly after the security arrived. Abel was at ease. Is this your private place? Why don't we call the security and ask if there's such a saying? Abel looked at Kang Xiaobo mockingly. He knew that Kang Xiaobo wouldn't be able to do anything. Chapter 57:18. Abel looked at Kang Xiaobo's defeated expression and smiled proudly. Mr. Kang, I've said it before. Without the support of the Fleischer family, you'll have a hard time in Europe. How about it? I've prepared a new contract from yesterday. Why don't you sign it? Look at how magnanimous I am. You should be grateful for this. Languza suddenly appeared out of nowhere with a big bag of hamburgers in his arms. His mouth was also stuffed full. Seeing Abel's arrogant look, he turned to Kang Xiaobo and said vaguely, Brother Kang, this guy looks quite annoying. Do you want me to help you beat him up? Kang Xiaobo smiled. These days, he and Languza had become familiar with each other. He knew that Languza simply liked to fight. To be more precise, he liked to bully noobs. However, Lin Yi didn't allow him to casually make a move. If Kang Xiaobo agreed, then it wouldn't violate Lin Yi's order. No need. Languza, you go find boss. I can handle this. Kang Xiaobo smiled and waved his hand. He knew that Languza didn't hold back. He didn't dare to let Languza make a move. Languza shook his head regretfully. He took out a hamburger from the bag and took a big bite. Then he went to the lounge. Lin Yi, Sun Jingyi, Su Shirhan and the others were waiting there. Abel suddenly felt cold sweat on his forehead. The moment he saw Languza, he thought of the 5 bodyguards of Igratapovich. It was said that they were caught by this blue-haired guy in an instant. Then their limbs were mercilessly broken. If Languza attacked him just now, wouldn't he end up in the same miserable state? Abel was secretly afraid. He didn't dare to say anything to provoke Languza. Anyway, today's goal was to destroy the contract between Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Company and some European companies or individuals. As long as he showed the name of the Fleischer family, he believed that not many people would dare to mess with them. Yo, isn't this the watchdog of the Fleischer family? Why are you in such a good mood? Where's your master? Didn't he come with you with a leash? Just when Abel was thinking that not many people would dare to offend the Fleischer family, a fearless person walked over. It was the young master of the Buffon family, Kerman Buffon. Looking back, Abel's face turned ugly. Kerman didn't bring laymen alone. There were more than 20 bodyguards. They were supposed to maintain order at the scene. Who would have thought that they would be surrounded by the people from the Fleischer family before the conference even started? Kerman, this is the territory of the Fleischer family. I'm doing something serious right now. Are you trying to provoke us by bringing people here? Abel said in a deep voice. Although he was afraid of the Buffon family, he wasn't afraid. I don't have the time to provoke a watchdog. I'm here for serious business. Do you see the setup for the press conference? Kerman pointed at the press conference, which had yet to be completed. His meaning was self-explanatory. Kerman Buffon. This is the business that our Fleischer family wanted first. Are you trying to snatch it from us? Abel stared at Kerman angrily. He immediately realized that it was the Buffon family that had formed a partnership with the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group. But he also knew that there wasn't much hope for this business. The strength of the Buffon family was no worse than that of the Fleischer family. Perhaps it was even stronger. More importantly, the Fleischer family and the Buffon family had always been at odds. They were originally enemies, so they would not give him face. As expected, Kerman laughed. That's funny. You're saying it as if you didn't snatch business from us. Plus, I've officially formed a partnership agreement with Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company. I'm not like some shameless people who only know how to use underhanded methods. Forget it, why am I wasting my breath on a dog? It's a waste of my saliva and lowers my status. Abel's face turned green. He gritted his teeth. Kerman Buffon, don't forget where you are. This is Milva, the territory of our Fleischer family. Aren't you afraid that old Buffon will be sad if you come here and cause trouble? This time, Lehman didn't need Kerman to speak. He sneered, what a joke. If your Fleischer family dares to touch Kerman here, the Gerard family, will be the first to teach you a lesson. Abel narrowed his eyes and looked at Komen and Lehman with murderous intent. Although the Gerard family was the younger brother of the Buffon family, and their strength was more than a level lower, the Gerard family was famous for their crazy fighting spirit. If they really bit the Fleischer family, even if they couldn't kill the Fleischer family, they would definitely be able to tear off a large piece of flesh. I'm in a good mood today. I don't want to argue with a watchdog like you. Get lost. If you want to cause trouble for this young master, send Edmund or those useless sons of his to deal with me. You're not qualified. Kerman said to Abel in disdain. He then waved his hand and asked his men to chase him and the Fleischer family away. This was their territory, but Kerman had the confidence to do so. Needless to say, this guy had the potential to become an overlord when he fully matured. Although Abel was unwilling, there was nothing he could do. His heart was bleeding as he watched a cornucopia of business being snatched away like this. If he had known this earlier, he would have signed the contract according to Lai Chang's conditions yesterday. The conditions were really very favorable. It was very easy to earn €1 billion a year. Now it was all for naught. Dr. Kang's golden sore medicine, which was similar to Miracle Dr. Guan's, was taken away by the Sacred Alliance long ago. The Fleischer family who lost both ends could only watch as others ate the meat. They couldn't even get a share of the soup. All of this was because of that idiot Igratopovich. What a stupid idea. Abel thought hatefully. Unfortunately, he couldn't do anything. Kerman was right. He was just a dog under Edmund, and Igratopovich was Edmund's nephew. What should he do in the end? Edmund had to figure it out himself. Chapter 57:19. Kang Xiaobo smiled and nodded. Boss is here. He's resting in the lounge. Did you sleep well last night? It was all right. This little bit of wine is nothing. How about we go for a drink after today's conference? Kerman said with a smile as if he wasn't the drunk person yesterday. Kang Xiaobo didn't mind. With his strength, he could drink a jar of white wine, let alone a few bottles of red wine. It wasn't a big deal. It was normal for him to not get drunk after thousands of glasses of true qi. The two of them stood at the side and chatted for a while. The background of the conference was almost done. If the banner Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group authorizes Buffon Group to sign the contract for all products in Europe was hung earlier, the unlucky Abel probably wouldn't have walked into the muzzle of the gun. That's why it was said that the early worm would be eaten by the bird. Wouldn't everything be fine if you came a little later? With the Buffon family's presence, the rest of the process went smoothly. Kerman, as the representative of the Buffon family, signed his name with Kang Xiaobo and Lai Changyi under the flashing lights. Then they exchanged the contract and officially announced the establishment of the partnership. The Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group had also begun their steps into Europe. Although the Fleischer family was unwilling, they didn't dare to do anything to Kerman on the surface. Both parties were enemies, but before they had full confidence, no one would go against Kerman. Especially since this was the Fleischer family's territory. If anything happened to Kerman, it didn't matter if it was done by them or not. In the end, the Fleischer family would be besieged by the other neutral families. So, not only could Edmund not do anything to Kerman, he had to ensure Kerman's safety. As for whether he would secretly find someone to kill Kerman after leaving the Fleischer family's territory, it would depend on the situation. After the signing was done, there was nothing for Lin Yi to do. The matter of opening the European market would naturally be handled by the Buffon family. Kang Xiaobo and Lai Changyi only needed to sit at home and collect the money. Big brother Ing, where are you going now? Kerman chuckled as he followed behind Lin Yi. He had found a big business for his family, which was a huge contribution. Furthermore, he could finally learn the martial arts that he had been dreaming of. His mood was indescribable. Kerman did not need to worry about the follow-up business, so he was very free now. It would be best if he could follow Lin Yi around. Lin Yi smiled and said, I'm going to Lanmi with them to watch Cheng Yi's concert. If you have nothing to do, come with us. Even if Lin Yi didn't invite him, Kerman would probably go with him. Hence, Lin Yi decided to ask him to come along. Kerman immediately smiled and nodded, I'm fine. I'm free all day. I know Cheng Yi. She's a very famous Chinese singer. I happen to be her fan. Let's go together. Brother Ing, do you have tickets? Do you want me to get someone to buy them? Cheng Yi's concert tickets were sold out a month ago. There was no such thing as a scalper in Europe. Only a young master like Kerman would dare to ask for tickets. Lin Yi smiled and said, that's not necessary. We can just go in. Go in? Kerman was a little suspicious, but when he saw Su Shirhan coming out of the resting room, he knew how to get in. Su Shirhan. What was unexpected was that Lyman and Keeman, these two guys that were inseparable, were Shirhan's fans as well. They didn't even care about Lin Yi and the others when they saw Shirhan, rushing over to ask for an autograph and a picture. Sure enough, the young master of a big family was still an ordinary person. He would have the need to chase after celebrities. However, compared to trash like Igor Adopovich, these two brats were obviously more likable. At least they wouldn't show off their status and look down on celebrities and other artists. After a while, Kerman found a long limousine and put Lin Yi and the others in. They left for Blue Rice. There was food, drinks, and entertainment in the car, so they didn't feel that time was short. By the time they reached Lan Mi and Cheng Yi's concert venue, the sky was already dark. The group had already eaten their fill in the car, so they didn't need to find a place to eat. Su Shirhan directly brought them to the venue. Of course, the only one who was unhappy was Languza. The limousine wasn't enough for him to eat his fill. A truck was more suitable. With Cheng Yi's arrangements, Lin Yi and the others were seated at the very front. Kerman and Lin Yi were quite pleased with themselves as well. They'd always gotten the best seats for concerts, but this was the first time Su Shirhan had brought them here personally. It was a completely different feeling. A song and dance started the concert. Cheng Yi's voice was different from Su Shirhan's. It lacked the ethereal aura, but it was more fiery and direct. Coupled with her graceful figure and sexy dance, it ignited the atmosphere of the audience. If Su Shirhan was a fairy, then Cheng Yi was a witch. When the two appeared at the same time, the entire venue seemed to explode. The sound waves shot up to the sky. One could see how popular the two were in Europe. They were definitely treated like superstars. After the song, Cheng Yi held Su Shirhan's hand and said shyly, "Today, I'm very happy that so many friends came to my concert. Especially one of them, she's my most important and favorite person." The entire audience burst into a huge uproar. No one had expected that Cheng Yi, who had never been involved in any scandals, would suddenly say such a thing. Lin Yi was also a little stunned. He vaguely knew what Cheng Yi was going to say, but he couldn't do anything right now. After the crowd calmed down, Cheng Yi continued, "I've always liked this person, but I've never confessed. Because he's the person my good sister likes, so I didn't dare to say it. If it was possible, I would never say it. But today my good sister encouraged me. Happiness is something that you have to fight for yourself. So, I mustered up the courage to confess to him in front of the whole world. Chapter 57:20. Linny sweated profusely. Qingyi had already made it so clear. If he still couldn't confirm that he was the one being confessed to, then he would really be an idiot. To be honest, Linny had a good impression of Qingyi. Although Qingyi approached Su Shihan as a spy and tried to seduce Linny, everything proved that she was a good girl. Sun Jingyi, Kang Xiaobo, and Lai Changyi all looked at Linny with a mischievous smile. Linny already had a lot of girlfriends. He didn't care if there was another Qingyi. Even Sun Jingyi wasn't unhappy at all. This matter would be settled after Qingyi said it. The fans all shouted in unison, "Confession! Confession! Confession!" Although Qingyi was a super idol, the fans were more appreciative of their idols. They were full of romantic genes. To be able to witness this romantic moment was also very fortunate for them. After getting the encouragement from the fans, Qingyi finally gathered her courage and looked at Su Shihan gratefully. Under Su Shihan's encouraging gaze, she let go of her hand and slowly walked to the front of the stage. The spotlight followed Qingyi. It was as if she was the only person left in the world. When she said the name of the person she was going to confess to, another spotlight would shine on him. The two of them became the protagonists of the world. Suddenly, all the light sources disappeared without any warning. The whole place was plunged into endless darkness. At first, everyone thought that it was the preparation for the confession. Because Qingyi was shy, she needed some darkness to boost her courage. Many people laughed out of kindness. Only Lin Yi felt that something was wrong. The moment the light disappeared, Lin Yi's divine sense was completely blocked. Even the people around him couldn't feel it. This was obviously not a normal situation. Languza, protect them. Lin Yi let out a low roar and grabbed Sun Jingyi, who was beside him. He grabbed her slender waist and flew up to the stage. In his memory, Qingyi's location was nowhere to be found. Lin Yi didn't stop and continued to rush towards Su Shihan. At the same time, he shot out tens of Zhenqi towards Su Shihan. In the next moment, Lin Yi's hand held Su Shihan's slightly cold palm. His heart suddenly calmed down and he whispered, "Shihan? Brother Lin, it's me." Su Shihan's voice was slightly shaky. "There was something trying to catch me just now, luckily you came fast. Where is he?" "I don't know either." Lin Yi answered casually. He shot out a ball of Dan fire and controlled it to circle around the stage. However, the Dan fire could barely light up a foot around him. After flying around, there was nothing. Where was Qingyi? The audience finally realized that something was wrong and started to panic. They all screamed because their phones couldn't light up the person next to them. Not to mention the light from the screen, even if they turned on the phone's flashlight function, it was the same. It was as if there was a monster in the darkness that was devouring the light. Lin Yi brought Sun Jingyi and Su Shihan back to the front row. At this time, it was better for everyone to stay together and take care of each other. 10 seconds later, the lights came back on. The audience's emotions calmed down a little, but Qingyi was still nowhere to be seen. The security guards started to appear to maintain the order and let everyone stay calm. Lin Yi's divine sense returned to its original function, but no matter how he looked, he couldn't find any trace of Qingyi. A living person completely disappeared under Lin Yi's eyes without leaving a trace. This kind of possibility was almost impossible. But now that it happened, the biggest suspect was only the center. "Brother Lin, where did Yi go?" Su Shihan grabbed Lin Yi's arm tightly and asked in panic. Lin Yi shook his head. "I can't find her at the moment, but don't worry, we will find Yi eventually." After comforting Su Shihan, Lin Yi turned to Languza. "I'll leave this place to you. You must protect their safety. I'll go find Yi." Languza nodded solemnly. "Don't worry, boss. I'll protect them with my life." With his strength, apart from Lin Yi, he was basically invincible in the secular world, so Lin Yi was very relieved. As long as they were by Languza's side, there shouldn't be any problems. After nodding at the crowd, Lin Yi transformed into his primordial spirit form and flew above the concert venue. He expanded his divine sense to almost cover the entire blue rice. Unfortunately, no matter how hard Lin Yi searched, he couldn't find any trace of Qingyi. It was as if she had never been here in the first place, completely disappearing without a trace. At the same time, on the flying saucer far away from Lanmi, Xiaolong was laughing weirdly. "Lin Yi, that idiot, how dare he hit me? You always like to act cool in front of me. Are you dumbfounded now? Ah, let him be arrogant. Now that he can't even protect his woman, let's see how he'll act cool in the future." Qin Dongqing looked at Xiaolong in disdain from the corner. He really looked down on this guy. He didn't have any skills at all, and yet he always wanted to step on Lin Yi. If it wasn't for his brother Kong Mingming's position in the center, he wouldn't have let him on this flying saucer at all. Qin Dongqing, who already had thoughts of joining Lin Yi's side, felt that the center was hopeless. They were just a bunch of defeated soldiers who didn't dare to fight Lin Yi face to face, and even resorted to kidnapping people. They even let trash like Xiaolong participate in the plan. It was like a joke. How was this even a big deal? It was a pity that Qin Dongqing couldn't go out as he pleased, and he didn't have any tools to contact Lin Yi. Otherwise, this would be a good opportunity to show off. Xiaolong was still laughing maniacally, and Qin Dongqing snorted inwardly. This idiot thought that he could threaten Lin Yi just because he had Qing Yi in his hands? If he got caught by Lin Yi, wouldn't he just die? If he wanted to fight against someone as strong as Lin Yi, the most important thing was to have enough strength to fight him. Otherwise, everything would just be empty talk. Even he, Qin Dongqing, could see through this, but none of the smart people in the center could see through it. It could only be said that they were a bunch of short-sighted rats. Chapter 57-21. In the isolation room, Qing Yi woke up, but she didn't panic. She calmly observed her surroundings. It wasn't as if she didn't know anyone in the ship, like Xiaolong, the son of Miracle Dr. Kang's family. She knew who he was. Xiaolong? Did you kidnap me? Qing Yi's eyes stopped on Xiaolong as she said coldly. She reached out and touched the alloy bars in front of her. With her strength, normal bars couldn't stop her. However, as soon as her fingers touched the fence, a strong electric current instantly surged into her body, causing her arm to fly out. Qing Yi let out a muffled groan, and her whole body fell on her back. Xiaolong turned to the isolation room and laughed. Qing Yi, don't waste your strength. There's over 10,000 volts of electricity on top of the bars. You're lucky this time I only touched your fingertip lightly. If you'd grabbed it, I wouldn't have been able to save you. Qing Yi's entire arm was numb from the electricity, and half of her body had fallen into a strong numbness. She struggled to sit up and said with a sneer, "What's the use of capturing me? Lin Bro will find me soon and save me. When that happens, none of you will be able to escape." "Haha, you're using that idiot Lin Yi to threaten me? You've got some guts." Xiaolong stood up and walked to the bars, looking down at Qing Yi. "If Lin Yi wants to save you, he'll have to find you first. Of course I'll give him a chance. As long as he gives me the Miracle Doctor Medicine Group's formula, I won't mind letting him find you. Don't even think about it. I have nothing to do with Lin Yi. You think you can use me to threaten him?" Qing Yi was glad that she didn't have the chance to confess to Lin Yi. At least now, she and Lin Yi were just normal friends. She shouldn't be used to threaten Lin Yi. Xiaolong paused. This was something he cared about. He wanted to capture Su Shihan or Sun Jingyi. These were the two people Lin Yi cared about. Unfortunately, he didn't manage to capture any of them. They're all useless. I can't even capture the key person. Xiaolong muttered in dissatisfaction. What did you say? Do you want to die? Qin Dongqing said coldly. He was a profound ascension stage cultivator. No matter how softly Xiaolong spoke, it couldn't escape his ears. If it was Kang Xiaoming here, Qin Dongqing might have some concerns. After all, he was an important member of Sky-class Island, but Kang Xiaolong was nothing. He wasn't even a cultivator and didn't have any special abilities. If they really killed him, the center probably wouldn't do anything to Qin Dongqing. Xiaolong shivered slightly. He wasn't an idiot, and he knew that he couldn't afford to offend these two masters. He laughed dryly to cover it up and turned to Qing Yi. You better pray that Lin Yi comes to exchange for you. If he doesn't, then you're useless. We'll just use you for human experiments. Of course, it's not right to say that you're useless. You're an international superstar after all. Before the human experiments, I can have a taste of a superstar like you and see how you taste different from other women. Qing Yi's expression changed slightly, but she didn't say anything. After all, it was useless to say anything. Qin Dongqing looked at Xiaolong with more and more disdain. Although he wasn't a good person in the past, he couldn't stand Xiaolong's shamelessness anymore. If he really had the chance to follow Lin Yi, he could give this trash's head to Lin Yi as a small gift. Shui Jianfeng said faintly, "Don't talk nonsense. I know Lin Yi. He looks kind and righteous on the surface, but he'll protect anyone who's related to him. Even if this Qing Yi isn't Lin Yi's woman, as long as she's his friend, Lin Yi won't leave her alone. Go back first and wait for Lin Yi to come." Xiaolong glared at Qing Yi and turned back with a smile. Master Shue's right. Lin Yi's just a hypocrite who likes to put on an act. This means that the plan this time is a success. Qin Dongqing's eyes lit up when he heard Shui Jianfeng's words. He didn't think that Lin Yi was such a protective person. Anyone who followed him wouldn't be at a disadvantage. In other words, switching to Lin Yi was more of a good thing than a bad thing. Unknowingly, the balance in Qin Dongqing's heart tilted towards Lin Yi's direction. If he got the chance, he might just go to Lin Yi's side. Lin Yi flew around Lanmi a few times. His divine sense searched the whole city inch by inch, but he still couldn't find anything. He could only return to the stadium helplessly. During this time, all the audience was evacuated, but the entire stadium was locked down. Cheng Yi's sudden disappearance from the concert was definitely a big incident in this city. If it weren't for the huge number of people, the police wouldn't even allow anyone to leave first. Su Shihan and the others were naturally still in the stadium. They just returned to the backstage. Languza protected everyone meticulously and was ready to make a move at any time. When Lin Yi appeared alone, Su Shihan showed an obvious disappointed expression. Even the omnipotent Lin Yi couldn't find Cheng Yi. Didn't that mean that Cheng Yi was dead? Boss, didn't you find out? Languza asked with a rare serious expression. The other party was able to capture someone under his and Lin Yi's eyes. This was indeed very powerful. At the same time, it made Languza lose face. Lin Yi shook his head. No. But even if we didn't find out, it's still a discovery. From this situation, the only possibility is that the Central Command Center captured Cheng Yi. Since they captured her, they must have a purpose. When the time comes, they will definitely contact me. So don't worry, Cheng Yi is still safe for now. Hearing Lin Yi's words, Su Shihan was slightly relieved. But Cheng Yi falling into the hands of Lin Yi's enemies wasn't a happy thing. They must save her as soon as possible. Unfortunately, there was no clue. They could only wait for the Central Command Center to contact Lin Yi. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.